Yes, team, hope you enjoyed the interview with Billy Davies and the horniest man in football, Gordon Dalziel. Great insight from Billy in terms of what it takes to be a top manager in England. Hope you enjoy, and as ever, can you like, comment and subscribe, please? Thank you. Yes, what a guest we've got today, Billy Davies. Billy, how are you, mate? All right?
I'm very well, Si. Thank you very much.
We've wanted to get this. We've been doing this for about 8 years now. We've been desperate to get you on for so long. How come now you've decided to?
Well, listen, I think it's things happened over the last many years, as we know, Si, and there's all sorts of different reasons. This pandemic caused a lot of issues with people. There was financial crashes. There was all sorts of family health issues, and there's been a lot going on. And finally, I'm now back and ready to join the good people in the football game.
Well, the first thing you've done for open goal was get Billy on.
Except for him, Si.
I told you, he's come on because he eventually got a shirt that fits him.
Let me tell you about this shirt.
That's brand new, mate.
I think my wife has went to Stirling Zoo and she bought this shirt off an orangutan because it's that big and long it doesn't fit me.
It's on orangutan.
I thought you were going to say she's wrong to zebra.
Come on, alright, when do we do the podcast?
Listen, I don't mind taking stick for you, but see, try to take stick for him on clothes, I'm not taking that at all.
Has he always been that unstylish?
Just the way he is, that's him. That's him, he's best.
Smart big
personality.
Smart big casual.
Right, talk us through it. How do you know each other? Any good stories before we get started between the two of us?
We met in our youth at Rangers, both in the youth. We used to go to, we were talking about it earlier, over to France Qua tournament. Brilliant. We're 15?
15 years of age,
Did we win it 1 year?
We actually won it, yes.
That was brilliant.
Yeah, you were on the bench quite a bit.
No, I wasn't.
Who was better of the two of us?
Probably me.
I heard he was a player.
I was a player. He was a wee ball player, no the wee greedy left foot, arse, a wee John McGinn type player, but very skillful. And that's where we started. And when we were over in France, I was out with the boys. He was in the dormitory, right, doing all the training programmes. And
were you that wired? Were you that wired even then?
Yeah, I've got to say, I can actually tell you, and I can show you my first training session at Rangers in 1979. Because what I used to do is I used to keep every single day, I would find out what the exercise was, what the times were, if we'd done any running or any drills. I'd speak to the coaches, I'd find out what it was, and I'd go home and I'd write everything down, and I've still got it to you. That's what I'd done, Si.
From what age, Billy? 15?
1979, I was just about 15 years of age.
I can verify that.
I know what you were doing at the time.
Oh, I was writing down every bird's name I could. I don't know which their runs. So we started off, and we weren't. We think back to this. We weren't that close. We never spent any time.
Right.
Come in, do the training, be in each other's team or whatever it is, and then probably leave and never make contact again.
So when did that come round again, where you became pally?
It came, Billy obviously went down south and went on to have a terrific, managing career with Forest, Derby, Preston. He'll talk about that later. And I remember I think I'd left Wraith Rovers, and I was talking to somebody about, look, I want to go and see, a club visit. I want to go and do X, Y, and Z. And they mentioned to me, look, why don't you phone Billy? You played with Billy at Rangers, you grew up with Billy, and he's at Forest now. Why don't you phone Billy? And so I picked the phone up to him. And the one thing I do love about him, and I hate to mention this, he says, right, I'll get you at Glasgow Airport Monday morning. We'll fly down, come stay with me for a couple of weeks and at his house. And I says, right, brilliant. I arrived there. He paid for the flight, never gave me money.
Amazing.
Still to this day.
You tight bastard.
Tight as any.
And you definitely moved your wife at the house for the 2 weeks as well.
Si, let me tell you.
And what see the training gear I come home with, right? I knocked everything. Little did he know, I was filling my bag. But he treated me like one of his staff, and to see him working and just be there on a day-to-day basis. And let me tell you something. I go back to that original when he was 15 and he started he's up at 6 in the morning and he's not getting back to 9. And I'm thinking, this is a long day. But that's just the way he was.
So before he came down, I locked up my daughters, I locked up my wife, I locked up my grandmothers. Any woman that was in the vicinity of about 100 yards, I advised them, whatever you do, find yourself a holiday, get away at the road.
Yeah.
And
but
it was
your
actually
secretary was good. You never locked her up.
There's a wee Bobby Dazzler running about Nottingham and Derby at the minute.
With a big nose. Amazing. How was he when he came down? Did he give you any sort of input?
No, it was just great to see him because, as Dad said, when we were at Rangers, we were very young and naive and we really didn't know each other. Dad would go that way, I would go that way after training. We didn't spend a lot of time together. Although I've got to say there was a snooker tournament next to Ibrox that it was to do with all the players, and Dad's obviously been very good friends with wee John Higgins and he thinks he's a super snooker player.
Yeah.
I don't think he was happy when I won that tournament, Si. I think he was...
Beat him.
Oh, not just beat him, I wiped
You
the
did get
floor.
a stool up on the table. You're on the black now. She's on down.
But no, I've got to say that when Dad's contacted me, I was delighted to see him. He came down and he was certainly very keen on getting back into the game, getting to know the game. And what I discovered with him was that he found his passion again, which was great.
So did you ever work together after that?
We've done a lot of bits and pieces with teams, and we've had some invites onto the pitch, and we've done some bits and pieces. So
My biggest learning thing came from him was he's well known for organisation. I'm not sitting here blowing smoke up his backside, but Andy will tell you he's well known for organisation. But I just didn't know how well until I spent every day with this guy. And the organisation, I'm talking about training, I'm talking about meetings, I'm talking about games, I'm talking about everything, was incredible. And then he put me onto the side of the video stuff as well, because as much as he had staff down there, he would sit on a Sunday and cut all his own videos.
As well.
And it would take 8-9 hours. And I remember sitting in his office one day going, fucking hell, get me out of here. This guy's insane.
And on top of that as well, I've watched a lot of interviews with players that have played under you. This is before we get to your playing career, and everything that comes back is, and this is the words that they use, he's a player's manager. What do you think they mean when they say that about you?
Transparency, honesty. I don't believe in shortcutting. I like to, if I've got an issue with a player, I'll be honest about it, I'll be straight about it, and no matter what the age or what the experience is, there's a certain discipline, there's a certain level of training session, and I think looking at it, Si, I would say that's probably my biggest strength, that a lot of the players like that transparency. Don't be kidded, players want helped, no matter what their age is, they want you to help them be better. And I've always found that if you be honest with the lads and you can be as transparent as possible, then I do regard myself as a manager's coach, if you like, a player's coach. I do regard myself as that, and one of my strengths, I think, is probably man management.
We will come to the management career, but that organisation, attention to detail, did that have anything to do with going down to Man United at such a young age?
Well, the Man United thing was very interesting because I was contacted by the chief scout then, a guy called Jimmy Dickey, famous Manchester United scout, over 50 years. He contacted my parents, and he apparently had been watching me for quite a while at 10, 11, 12 years of age. And eventually I get taken down to Manchester, down to the famous Cliff training ground. I was down there from 12 to 15, 16 years of age, mingling with the first team, getting to know great manager Dave Sexton, who was a manager, a team full of Scottish guys, Arthur Albiston and Gordon McQueen, Joe Jordan, you had the Greenough brothers, you had it was just such a wonderful place to be. And eventually I got offered a 5-year contract, Si, and I took, prior to me taking homesick, I was taken to probably the best final. They call it the 5-minute final. Arsenal against Manchester United, 1979, 100,000 attendance at Wembley. Arsenal go 2 up. Brian Talbot scores the second one to go 2 up. United scored in the 86th and the 88th minute. Gordon McQueen and Sammy McElroy to equal the game. And then a lad called Alan Sunderland scored in the last minute to make it 3-2 for Arsenal. But to be taken down there by the club and to get all that hospitality, to feel what was going on was great. And then eventually I come back went abroad with the youth team, took a bit of homesick, and told Dave Sexton very, very sadly that I've decided to stay home, and I signed a 5-year deal with Rangers.
And seeing you look back on it now, I know it's different. Would you, if you had your time again and what you know through the game and everything you've learnt, was it the right choice, Rangers, to Man United? Would have give you better opportunities in English?
Yeah, I think it was a terrible decision for me. I was young, I was naive, I took homesick, I made a decision. But the club were fantastic. The manager Dave Sexton was fantastic. The coaching, every day going down to the training ground at the Cliff, all the first team boys were there. The Lou McCarrys, the Sammy McElroys, and
he's a Northern Ireland manager for us.
Frank Stapleton, Lou McCarry, all these guys were all there, and you see them every day, and we actually sat at lunchtime and beside them. And I've got to say, it was a great experience. It was a wonderful club. It was a great place to be, and it was the biggest mistake of my life.
So how did Rangers know about you then? If obviously you'd not played for Man United's first team, where did the Rangers think? Did they always like you as a kid? How did Rangers identify you?
Well, again, I think I was just about 15 and a half, and then Rangers must have heard that I'd turned the offer down to go to Manchester. And then I got a chap at the door from the chief scout at Rangers, asked me to come along, go and speak to John Greig. The club are very interested in signing me. And I went along and I spoke to two people. I spoke to Greggy, and I spoke to a guy called Willie Thornton, who Daz will know. And I sat down with them and we chatted away with my family, and then we decided that we'll go and sign a 5-year contract.
Wow. We went down the same road, because that's the exact road I went down. The only difference was he says to me, look, we've gave Davis a 5-year contract, you're getting a year and a half. I nearly had a heart attack when he went, they gave me a 5-year, I'm in there haggling for 18 months.
I actually said to them, I said to Greggy, do me a favour, John, in relation to Gordon Dale, a pair of flip-flops and a pair of training shoes might be more than enough for him to sign on.
5-year contract.
So John Greig came to your house?
No, I went to the stadium, the training ground.
Right.
I went to the old training ground at Ibrox, and I went to the stadium, and I met Willie Thornton, and I met Greggy. His assistant at that time was Tommy McLean.
All right, you told me.
And again, it was a great learning
experience. High ball duel that was between the used to get 5-a-side and go like that, right here, up for a heat.
Si, can I just confirm that I was actually 2 inches bigger than Tommy McLean, so I want you, before we go any further, just make sure we put that in.
And then our best one was we made our first trip to Canada, remember? Toronto.
Yes.
That's when Ali Dawson got the
head
famous head injury. We were on that, but as much as we'd been at France, been at Canada, trained, played in the reserves, played in the cup final. Great story when it was at Aberdeen, wasn't it?
1983 at Aberdeen,
Scottish Cup final. We're playing in that, and then the following year, I think I started one. I was sub with one, and you were subbing. It was at times there was 2 subs, and Billy and I were sub, and I always remember it going down the wing. You remember this? And I crossed into the back post. And you come flying in, right, 4'7" of you, right, and next minute you sheared the ball in the back of the net. Now, remember, it's McLeish and Miller, it's the 2 centre backs, the size of him. He's right up, honestly, climbing like Mount Everest, bang, header in. On
can I give you the Billy Davies version of that story there? Because
it's a terrible cross, I can tell.
But listen, let me give you the proper version. Right. So, the Dazzler comes on for John McDonald. I comes on for Davie Cooper. Bobby Russell plays the ball into the wide area to Dazzler.
Pace.
First of all, he nearly trips, right? He stumbles, and he eventually gets the ball, and then he starts to run with the ball, and it was the slowest bit of pace that you've ever seen from a right wing in your life. Anyway, he managed to get to the byline, and he scoops this pathetic cross into the box side. The ball was that high, it was touching clouds, right? There was no pace. You know, you want a bit of pace on the ball. You've got to think about this 5'6" midfield player that's made a fantastic 70-yard run into the box to the back stick.
I've given them time to get the trampoline on.
And he's grabbed over into the back stick. I think it was big Neil Cooper that actually jumped on the back of and pushed Neil Cooper.
Good header.
And it was a great header. Listen, don't care about anybody. Last salmon. That was. I must have been about 6'5" by the time I got up there. Si. Don't be kidding. Don't listen to that nonsense. But it was great then. You know, it was really great.
All that stuff we always went separate ways.
What about John Greig? What was he like? Was he intimidating as people say he was?
Greggy was actually a very nice guy. I think, again, he took over at the wrong time, probably, because he had been a teammate of these guys, as tells you. And at that time, there was Tom Forsyth and Tommy McLean, the Coop was there, Bobby Russell was there, there was Derek Johnson was there was a Peter McCulloch, there was a whole range of vastly experienced players that Greig had played with. And then John was chipped in to be the manager, and I think sometimes it's just the wrong place at the wrong time or whatever it may be. But he was a great guy. I mean, really first class to young players. Really well organised in what he'd done. And he certainly was not the guy that he was in the pitch. He was a different type of guy.
It was a hard dressing room, wasn't it?
It was a hard dressing room.
In terms of players to each other?
No, just as young guys like us getting in there. And remember, we're going in there at 16. We've basically just left school. And you're getting into big characters. Big Tom Forsyth and all that. You know, Sandy Jardins and what you're saying, Derek Johnson scoring a cup final goal at 16. And, you know, big guys that you probably looked up to, and all of a sudden you're now sharing the same platform. You're walking up the marble staircase, which everybody, if you're involved with Rangers, says it's the honour. And the guy that's the legend sitting at the top got to be your manager. So I don't know how Billy felt, but I always felt that my early days at Ibrox they were quite scary.
Did they just treat you like men? Was it the fact that you were 16 out the window, you weren't kids anymore, you were in there and you were treated the same as everyone else?
Yeah, but back then, so I don't forget, there was quite a disciplined environment. You know, we would wash cars, we would clean boots, we would put
shirt and tie every day.
Shirt and tie every single day. I mean, it was a tough environment, and of course, you did do the stairs at Ibrox, you did run the track at Ibrox. There was a real hard-nosed, disciplined approach back then, and as Dad said, we probably just weren't wise enough or experienced enough to handle the situation. Yeah,
right, we'll have to know about the debut at 17, you were talking us through it. Do you know you're playing the day before, or is it just fling you in an hour before kick-off?
In you go. I'll never forget it, because Brechin's not the best place in the world to play. It's a real tough.
Where you made your debut?
Brechin City at Brechin, I was
17. Shockers there, Billy.
And by the way, as you know, Si, there was a lot of real tough players back then.
Yeah.
And Brechin certainly had a number of very tough players. I'll never forget the game. The game was like a million miles an hour, the game, and there was tackles flying everywhere. It wasn't a particularly good night. The weather wasn't great. The pitch wasn't great, as you can imagine. And it was a real men against boys in the sense, for me, playing against these vastly experienced men, 17-year-old, and you just, again, you go out there, you try to do what you do, but there was a war taking place. And at that point, you just didn't quite know how to handle that war.
Did they standards stay with you for the rest of your career, even into management?
Yeah, I think they teach you very good things. They teach you that discipline. They make you understand what this game's all about, especially at these big clubs where there was a lot of discipline. And there's a lot of tradition inside the clubs. Again, I remember Willie Johnston saying to me, in this football club, you put your shorts on last before you get onto the pitch. That was a tradition. And all the players used to put these shorts on last as you come out of the dressing room, shorts on last, and away you went.
Why was that?
Just a tradition, something that one or two of them decided. They all had their own things, they all had their own little beliefs and bits and pieces. But when you're dealing with the Willie Johnsons of this world, you're dealing with the Alec McDonalds, and you're dealing with the Tom Forsyths, and these guys, they come up in an era where it was real tough competition. Every game was a major battle. And that standard at Rangers back then, everything was very, very strict and very disciplined.
So see, with this discipline, Ali McCoist signs for Sunderland. How did a guy like him deal with that sort of discipline?
I remember, I've got to say something, I'm sure that when Coisty first came in, he went through a very difficult period.
Tough, yeah. Did he, right?
I think he was getting pelters. If I remember right, Ali was in a real bad place, because things didn't quite happen when he first came in. And I'll never forget, as a teammate with him, I was a young lad, obviously, and Coisty came in as this big signing for Sunderland. Never started that well, and there was a lot of abuse towards Coisty, and a lot of impatience as well.
Wow.
But great credit to him, fantastic lad in the dressing room, great on the training ground, first class finisher, and he showed his character by digging in, and then eventually turning it around and doing what he done.
It's not always the most talented ones, is it? It's the ones with the best character and mental strength.
Listen, I remember the days, and I played a couple of games with him, and the stick that he was getting was unbelievable.
For who does? Fans?
For the fans.
Staff?
For the fans.
Oh yeah.
The fans.
Oh yeah.
And see, to be fair to him, lesser players would have folded.
Yeah.
Because, and Billy will tell you, when you're playing at Ibrox and you're playing in front of a big crowd, and you've got to go out there and perform. You've got to be 100%. You've got to, but you'll get criticism. And we do the show with Fergie, Fergie will tell you every player that's come up through there, and it's probably sometimes it'll be the same as Celtic as well. Demands are so highly on you. It's a easy place to crumble, mate, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yes.
And you need big characters. And to be fair, none bigger. All credit to him, because I remember one game, and the fans were right on his back. They were slaughtering him, and he just kept going. And as much as he's got that bubbly personality, he must have a real strong character underneath as well, you know.
And have you had fun times on him as well? Nights out since? Nah, no, really.
So you know these dressing rooms, there's always fun times, there's always the characters, there's always the things that take place, and Coisty was one of these, he was one of the guys, wasn't he? He was one of the jokers in the pack, and he was just great fun to be around, and then you had the young Ian Durrants and all these Fergies all coming up.
What were they like, Durrant and Ferguson?
They were just off their head. I mean, what you see today is what they are. They're completely off their rocker. But at a club like Rangers, you need that. You need that rough edge.
Yeah.
You know, and I say that all the time to people. You can't have all the pasta eating, water drinking, early bed sleeping people. You've got to have these loose cannons that
he done all that for the rescues. You know what I mean? He done the waters and all that care on.
And did you think the same as a manager? Like, would you like signing people that were a wee bit nuts and then different types? Did you like the dressing room a good mix?
Yeah, I like players that question. I like players that stand up and fight their corner. I like players that will maybe say to me, don't get me wrong, there's a line that they don't cross, and they know they don't cross it. Because if they do cross it, then there's only going to be one winner. But at the same time too, I like these mavericks. I like these guys that just behave in a different way, and they've got different theories and different thoughts, and you've got to allow that in your team. You've got to allow the different people in your team to be who they are, and you've got different personalities, different characters. But I do like guys, you know, I do like guys at the clubs I've been at. I've had one or two guys like Andy Reid. Have you been on here, Andy Reid? He liked a biscuit, didn't he, Andy Reid? But what a wonder left foot. But not just that. Reid's a character.
Yeah.
As you know, he'll if he's got something to say, he'll say, Gaffer, can I just say this? So Reid was one of the gang that so don't get me wrong, very respectful, great lad to work with, great type in the dressing room, fantastic type. But people that really I like these guys that have got that character and that opinion to go and say something, but at the same time too,
respect.
They know when to stop.
It's mad, isn't it? Because modern day managers now probably wouldn't like that. I would think a modern day manager now didn't like the type of characters in the dressing room anymore. No,
but I think it was, in Billy's case, I don't know, but I would probably say Billy liked the dressing room to look after itself. And for the dressing room to look after itself, you need the character. You need the Reedies. You need the guys like that that's going to go in and stand up and cause the situation that's going to get you all together again. So it's different now, but...
why would you say it never worked out for you, Rangers boy?
Wrong place, wrong time. Inexperienced, naive, lacked confidence.
Did you, mate?
Oh, no doubt. I don't think I really got my confidence probably until my mid-20s, is when I really started to believe on what I could do and who I was. But I think at Rangers, Si, I would say, as Dad said, not a great environment in the sense of it was a big change at Rangers at that point. You can see the change. You can see the change coming in the early 80s. But I would say that from my point of view, I think it was just inexperience, lack of confidence, lack of belief, and I never done what I could have done or what I should have done.
So was that feeling like I'm not good enough to be here? You've said the same, haven't you?
Oh, terrible, yeah.
You get intimidated, you know, you look at these guys and only as you get older you start to realise that the monster's not quite as big as what it looked like back then as a young player. You know, that's why I say about the Fergies and the Durantes and all these guys, you need that, they had that rough edge early. They had something about them. Yeah. And I think that's very important at big clubs, that you have that rough edge and you can go there and you've got that little bit of arrogance and you can do that, whereas many people develop at different stages. Okay, no, everybody develops at 17 or 19 or 20. A lot of people develop. You've got late developers, you've got early developers, you've got people that completely live in different environments.
Yeah.
You know, the home environment has got a lot to consider as well.
Was Cooper, he was the opposite of you, I take it, he just felt like he belonged there?
Oh, he was a Billy.
Made to play there,
Do you know, the exciting thing was travelling with him for me. You know, just listening to him, getting to know him as a person. He was a brilliant guy, absolutely brilliant. And he would get into, they called him the Moody Blue, didn't they? Because you get in the morning, everybody would always say good morning. Oh, what's fucking good about it? You know, that was his first reaction. Everybody knew it was coming. He'd have the head down. But when he put on his gear and he put the boots on and he went out, he just, hey, Billy, I'll tell you, sometimes you would just watch him and go, my God, how much ability have you got? And it was only one leg.
So the best thing for me, for Coop, is we used to do the team pictures in the pre-season.
Yeah.
And the Coop, he despised pictures, photographs.
Good looking boy as well.
That hassle, but the hassle, I'm talking about the hassle of the
next
club.
to Billy, by the way.
He was next to me. I was there.
I was about that side. You should see my fan mail.
So the Coop in these team pictures at pre-season, after 2 or 3 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever, when he had enough,
Just walk in.
he just got up and he walked away. And of course, Greggy and the coaching staff and the people that are organising the pictures, they would all be shouting to him, Coop, we need to get the individual pictures, we need to get the team pictures. And as Daz tells you, when Coop makes up his mind, he makes up his mind. On the good side of Davie Cooper, I'll never forget, he loved his horses.
Right.
And I'll never forget, after training one day, he gave me 4 horses to put on. I don't do the gambling such or the betting things like that, but I remember the Coop telling myself and a couple of other guys about these 4 horses. Anyway, as you do, I no bother, Coop, thanks for that, that's great, no for me, you walk away. Next day we come in and the 4 horses stoated. He had pinned the 4 of them, and apparently a number of these guys had won a fortune over Coop, given the 4 horses. And he, by the way, right on the nose with the 4 of them. But he was a magnificent guy. I spent a lot of time over in Canada on the Red Leaf tournament. I kind of stuck closely. Coop looked after me. And as Daz tells you, Daz travelled with him every day. Coop was a fantastic guy. Great, wonderful player. No doubt he's a Moody Blue, but he was a real gentleman. I seen the greatest fight ever with Coop and Colin McFadden.
Right.
Best ever. We go upstairs to get our lunch. And Coop's there and McAdam's on the opposite side. And Coop, for a laugh, picked up a cake in the middle of the table and he leaned across and he shoved it in Colin's face.
By the way, I improved him.
By the way,
hope he's not watching.
By the way, Big Colin was up. He was one to handle, you know. And I never forget, Si, Big Colin chased Coop all the way out of this lunch place, down the marble stairs, along to the dressing room. And of course 4 or 5 guys were chasing him because Coop just gave it to him. And Big Colin lost the plot and chased after him. And again, that was the kind of environment. It was there was a lot of real strong characters.
Amazing.
And a lot of real leaders in there, yeah.
And then you go to Sweden, mate, 2 clubs. I'm going to try this. Jan Koping and Elfsborg.
Gone shopping, yeah, in
Why
Elfsborg.
Sweden?
I got contacted by a guy that was at Aberdeen, and he was a number 2 at Chelsea called Ian McNeil.
Right.
Ian McNeil had obviously watched me playing at Rangers, and he contacted me and said to me, look, would you like to go to Sweden? I've got a very good friend who's a chairman and they're looking for a ball playing midfield player. I said, well, you better find somebody else then. that's not me. But no, that's how it came about, Si. And I thought to myself, you know what? There's nothing like getting an experience abroad. Like we're seeing at the minute with the Scotland boys, a couple of them. And I've got to say, I went across to Sweden. I had no idea what to expect. The weather was horrific in the winter. A lot of snow and a lot of very cold weather. In the summer it was beautiful. The culture was a great culture. I went to school every day and learnt the language, which was a great experience. And I've got to say,
English is hard to learn.
I've got to say that again, training session, preparation, speaking to the staff about how they prepared and what they done. And back then you had Roy Hodgson, who was at a club called Orgrita,
Right.
with a boy called Anders Limpar who played with Arsenal.
Remember him. Everton as well.
And you had at that point in 87, I think it was, you had Gothenburg who had just beat Dundee United in the European final.
That's right.
So Swedish football back then had a lot of good coaches, good players, and their success at teams was very good. But for me, it was a wonderful experience to go there, learn the language, learn the culture. Again, take a ton of notes on what was taking place with training session and so on. And I would advise any young player or young coach, take the chance if you can, because it's something that you just can't buy.
And then you go to St Mirren, mate. You come back to St Mirren. Who was there at that time? Young Paul Lambert was there, wasn't he?
Paul Lambert was there. Kenny McDowell, my great friend and teammate.
Who's
Kenny.
the manager?
The manager
Jimmy
at that,
Bone?
sorry?
Jimmy Bone, no?
At that point I went in, it was Alex Smith and Jimmy Bone.
Yeah.
And then took over from that was Tony Fitzpatrick and Frank McGarvey. Sadly we've lost Frank, a great pairing as well. A dressing room full of nutters. And no other than Paul Kinnaird. I don't know if you know.
Paul Kinnaird, somebody spoke about on here before.
Paul Kinnaird is the craziest guy you'll ever come across.
In what way?
He just would disappear for training. He would he wouldn't turn up for training.
Right.
He would sprint out because there was somebody outside waiting to see him, and the stories I could tell you about this guy was excellent. And also at that point with Alex Smith and that, my biggest fear factor, I've got to tell you, my biggest fear factor, so I was a guy called Billy Abercrombie.
Right.
He kicked the shit out of you in training, and he was a real tough character. But back then you had, again, a great dressing room with the Kinnairds, and you had the Kenny McDowells, and you had the Ian Camerons, your Campbell Monies was there as well, and a whole range of Paul Lamberts, Norrie McWhitters. Real good place to play.
That's a gang, innit?
That's a gang.
That's a gang.
Great dressing room.
That's a Figgy Park gang.
They're doing the Paisley Park.
And then you throw in the Robert Dawsons for Stirling and all these guys, and it was good fun.
How was Jimmy Bone? Because he's quite notorious for being, he could buy off a handle, can't he, Jimmy Bone, nah?
Jimmy was a tough.
He was a tough guy.
He loved a run. He loved to run you around that track. Oh, I loved that.
Do you hate that as a player?
No, I think back then it was discipline. Jimmy was another one that didn't suffer fools, and he always demanded standards from players, and he always wanted things to be right. But Smithy was much more softer. He was more of a man manager, but a lovely character. Jimmy was a hard-nosed guy. And then in came a guy that had great time with Tony Fitzpatrick. Tony, I think, put me in the right position, played me in the right way, understood what I was, and I'd probably played my best football under Tony, and it was great also
Do you
working
think
with
that's
Frank.
because Tony was that sort of player?
Possibly, yeah. Tony was that similar
And he's seen
midfielder.
that connection.
Similarity.
And he started to push me into areas and get me on the ball in certain places. And for whatever reason, so I got the confidence at that point. And that season we played very well. But the dressing room was great. That helps you. As you know, there's nothing better than being in a good dressing room and having that character and having that camaraderie and that spirit, that team spirit they talk about.
Did you play centre mid with Lambert?
I played centre mid with me and Paul Lambert played centre mid, yes.
Did you tell he was going to go and do what he done?
He had ability. He was a very intelligent player. But at that point, he was lacking in a wee bit of confidence back then. He still didn't have that belief that he could go to the places that he went. But
did you try and help him with that?
Always.
Could you identify that quite early? Huh?
We were always together.
Do you know the story about Lambo missing Motherwell training to go and try?
I was there, yes. I was in the conversation. I can remember it clearly.
What's your take on it?
My take on it, that we had a tough decision to make. You either go to Dortmund and go on trial, or you make that move that might be the worst decision in your life. And I remember speaking to Paul, and it was really tricky, Si, because he knew what he had to do, and he had to miss training. He had to go and just disappear. And after a long, because I was very close with him at that point. Obviously, I was really close with him, and we had that discussion, and both of us thought, you know what, you just need to suffer the consequences. You just need to go for it because you're going to Dortmund, the chance of a lifetime. And
did McCulloch come to you and ask whether his story was good? He said he was ill, didn't he?
He was ill, and obviously
he was ill and he went to Dortmund. I didn't know that.
Or his wife told him he was ill or something.
Absolutely, we made out that he was ill, and that's why he never turned up. And then, of course, there was all the questions in the club. You know, obviously I was close to him, and one or two people were trying to find out what's going on, and I'm playing a game that I don't know what's going on. And here he was on his flight, heading over
Amazing. Do you remember him phoning you saying they want to sign us?
Yeah, I remember him. I remember him phoning me. I remember him, and he'll tell you this. I remember saying to him, "Now, whatever you do here, get your pen and paper out. Your pencil's your best friend over here. I want you to write everything down. Make sure you don't miss a trick on for the minute you come out your car in the morning to the minute you leave at night time. Whatever takes place with the coaching staff, with the club, whatever takes place in the training ground, the preparation for games, write everything down. Very, very important." And then he went over there, done his bits, and then he won this European trophy. And I think I seen that European trophy. Every time I met him, he was wearing it around his neck. I must have seen it about 6,000 times in the next 2 weeks. But it was fantastic for him. Magnificent journey for him. Great decision to miss the training. And I'm sure Big Alec wasn't happy.
Incredible story.
Great decision.
Mate, that's sensational for you telling him to go there and write everything down. Did he ever give you the Dortmund?
He's a miserable bastard. Don't be so stupid. He never told me nothing. He wouldn't tell you nothing. That's why he was such a good manager. I mean, he was such a good manager. But no, we spoke about football all the time. I wasn't going to say to him. I would ask him what happened. You know, he would tell me certain bits and pieces. But that's his notes. Yeah. He's got to keep his. That's his portion, if you like. So I would always say what took place, what happened. But and he'll confirm it to you. I said to him, you make sure that the pencil and the pad is your best friend here. You cannot miss a trick.
Do you know what I liked about Lambert? That's true. When I was the manager at Ayr, he was at every Ayr reserve game, right? And I used to sit and I'd look out and think, what is Paul Lambert doing at this game? But his best pal at that time was this wee centre half, Norrie McWhirter, who was my reserve team coach. And he was there, like what was Billy saying, taking notes. He reserved at Ayr United at that point, knowing that his coaching career was going to kick on.
We had a great time at Motherwell in the midfield area. You know, it was myself, Paul Lambert, and a lad called Jamie Dolan. It was sadly passed away.
Yeah, I remember Dolan as well.
Jamie was a great lad as well, yeah, and it was very sad. And we had a great time at Motherwell as teammates, and we were very close.
Right, this is where it kicks off. 33-year-old. Again, what age are we talking about now when you are thinking, right, I'm ready for management? Did that come to you, or did it just come when maybe Alex loses his job and they come to you?
Play as long as you can.
Right.
That's what I wanted to do. Right. And at that point, as I said, I'd been coaching mid-20s. I'd then get dragged in by Willie McLean. Willie McLean brought me into the coaching of 15s. And at that point, the two guys, if I remember, was Faddy and Stephen Pearson.
They were playing for the under 15s?
They were playing for the under 15s at the time. And I'd done a lot of stints in Motherwell with them. I was then taken into the under 20 or 18, I can't remember, Si. I think it was under 20s, under 21s. I started doing some coaching in there, and obviously still a player. And then on a Tuesday night, we're playing Hearts at Tynecastle for the 20s or the 21s. And I was asked to go down to the office to see the owner, called John Boyle. I'm thinking to myself, what's this all about? Because I think it was Harry Campman was the manager. It's just before that. I went down to the office, I walked in, there was Pat Nevin, John Boyle, and one or two other people. And John said to me, Billy, have a seat on the side of the manager's desk. The seat where the manager would sit. He says, have a seat. So I goes and I sits down, and I'm now looking at this crowd in the room and I'm thinking,
we need you a bigger cushion.
Booster seat. Get a booster seat for the morning.
Are you sitting down there? Where are you, Billy?
Where's the high chair? I'm here, John, I'm here. So he said to me, Billy, we'd like to offer you the job as player manager at Motherwell.
You had no inkling that this
No idea. I was there to take a reserve game or a 20s game at that time. My family was upstairs. And John said, we'd like to offer you the job as player manager. And I says, John, you don't mind? I'd like to go away and speak to my family. And I left the ground. I went upstairs and got my family. I said to my family, we need to go. My wife was there, my son was there, I think my father was there. And I said to him, we need to go. And my wife says, what's the problem? I says, we need to go. And I'm stunned at this point because of what's happened. And eventually I went home and thought about it. I didn't want to give up too early, Si. But here's a decision of a lifetime, as Daz will tell you. Player manager, 33 years of age, and I decide I'll take this on. But the most important thing for me was very early, I knew that I couldn't do a player manager. I had to give up playing.
Why? Did you try it first?
I tried it first. I didn't like the attention to detail wasn't there that I would like, being the manager, standing on the periphery looking in to see what's going on.
That's the line I went down as well. I went in as player manager, and after and stuck with 30, I was about 34, 30. And I totally get what Billy's saying there, because you're out on the pitch and you're relying on other people to do, and then you're coming in at half time and you need to concentrate on your game, but you want to also get points over.
Great point.
And it just became, and then what you done in the pitch was you started concentrating more than, and rather than your own job. So you weren't really contributing, right? But you were a manager. And that's how, I totally agree, that's how I decided.
Nah, too much. And I think that's a good move.
Yeah.
Because it's for some people, depending on the staffing structure. It depends what staff you've got and who's beside you. But for me, Si, I just decided I had to stop playing and concentrate.
But you did join in with the youth team games or reserve games, because Faddy tells the story, he's told it on here, if you didn't pass the ball to your feet, you weren't moving. And
he's a lying bastard. Don't listen to him. Getting Donkey McDribble. Don't listen to him.
See, when
he was too busy wanting the body going beat 16 players.
See, when you were doing 15s and then like the 21s, were you getting a reputation of being a good coach? Were people obviously getting moved up quite quick?
I don't know, Si. I just, as Faddy said, I think at that point I started to play in the 20 games or the reserve games, whatever it was, and I felt more comfortable there, because I could afford to let my own game go.
Yeah, of course.
And I could pull people around and shove people about.
Yeah. And
I could advise people on the pitch. But no, I don't know, Si. I was only doing what I loved.
Yeah.
I love this game. I've always loved this game since 6 years of age, and it's when you go from playing to coaching, the coaching thing is just something that I just love doing, you know.
What was Faddy and Peter like as 15-year-old kids? Very ugly, I imagine, but in terms of playing.
Well, you've got to. Yeah, I think you're right. Faddy was the ugliest thing in two legs. Peter was just a ginger that was trying to grow up. He was nothing else. Two great boys, great to work with. Again, Si, you could see from a very, very early age, they just had something about them. You know, Faddy was just had that confidence. Very confident player, as you know. Faddy was super confident. Peter had that athleticism. A great athlete, nice, tall, slim lad. But when he made these runs, he made these tremendous runs, and it was a pleasure working with him.
I bet you never thought that one of them would make such an impact in your football career.
Well, that was the thing. I think
at Wembley.
Was it
Wembley?
It was Wembley, yeah. But the other one that came in was Keith Last. They brought Keith Last into Motherwell. He was also another.
As a kid,
yeah. We brought him in. I signed him, and then the other young lad that was there was Stephen Hamill. These four young players in particular, you could just see that they had a wee bit something special, and it was a pleasure to give McFadden and Pearson stick in the 20s games. I used to love giving them stick, and McFadden's absolutely right. Just give me the ball and you just run. You're just a runner. I'm the ball player.
You're a decoy for me. Pat Nevin was the chief exec.
Yes.
When you were 33, how was that dynamic?
Well, I've got to say that probably ending Pat's playing career, I should have gave him a 10-year contract rather than speaking to him and saying to him, Pat, I think you need to hang up the boots. But Pat was in a very strange role as well, very early for his career. Wonderful player, but he was getting to a certain age where we obviously had to try and bring in some youth and some legs and change things around. And it was a difficult conversation telling the chief exec, by the way, we're not renewing your contract. By the way, I think you should hang up the boots. And it might be a good idea for you to start focusing on that side. So that wasn't a good conversation. It was an honest conversation. Looking back on it now, Si, I probably should have gave him a 10-year deal.
So he was the chief exec.
Well, you got to. It's a strong decision, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you're right in what you're saying. I'm not sticking up for you. See, if you're in that position, young manager, you're saying, "Oh, I'll keep everybody on side."
Yeah.
But you knew deep down in your heart, look, I've got to make. If you're going to be a top manager, and Billy went on to manage you've got to make strong decisions, haven't you?
Was there any other big decisions that you had to make in the early days?
Oh, there was a lot of big decisions. I mean, you know, at that point with Lee McCulloch and Stephen McMillan, there was a transfer of them down to Wigan, I think it was.
Right.
There was all sorts of changes happening and making within the club. And again, we had a lot of big characters in this club. And then we brought in a lot of big characters like the Andy Gorams, the John Spencers, the Jed Brannan, Sean Keels, all these guys allied with the Stevie Woodses and all these people that were kind of young and part of that squad. So it's just a matter of getting in there, and you've got to make that strong decision and decide what changes is needed.
And you got beat 5-0 your first game.
Did you? Probably the best thing that's happened to me.
Why?
Funny enough, it came from an ex-teammate of mine, Sandy Clark at St Johnstone.
Right.
Beat 5-0.
Sandy beat
Sandy, I loved that.
First game of the season up there, and they beat us 5-0. And I've got to say, sometimes these adversities very early can be the making of you. And I think that was the making of us. I think it really helped us understand the challenge, understand the job that was in hand, what was required, and it was a wake-up call for everybody.
So what did you change after that result?
I just went in and probably again, Si, I went with my gut instinct. I then started to get into people's heads. I then started to change the training tempo, change the structure of the training and how we would work on a day-to-day basis. Split up the squad in relation to the strengths and the weaknesses and the departments of what we needed to work on. And you just start to take a grip of this group, and you start to do what you can. But I'll be honest with you, Si, looking back on it, I was a young coach. I really didn't know what this game was all about off the pitch. On the pitch, I could put on training sessions, crossing and finishing drills, passing drills and all that stuff, shaping teams and trying to give advice, of course. But as you know, there's a lot more to this game.
Can you remember what you said after that 5-0 game, Billy, or is that too long ago?
I probably said, what am I doing here? What's going on here?
Was there times in the early stages where you did doubt yourself?
No, never. There's never a doubt. You're obviously judged by your results. We all know as coaches and managers that this is a results-driven business. So you know that when you get that heavy defeat, then you've got to pick things up. Lucky enough for me, in the next game or two, we beat Rangers 1-0 at Fir Park.
Wow.
Dick Advocat was the manager, and I'll never forget it. John Spencer scored the winning goal. It was very early on in my career, and it was a fantastic result, and that turned us. We then started to bring in some real pedigree into the team. We lifted the spirit, and we ended up having a great season.
Did you bring in Goram and Spencer already there?
Yeah, brought Goram, brought Andy in. How
did you manage to get Goram? Can you just talk us through that process?
I know how we managed to get him.
Wasn't it you, was it?
No. What happened was Andy, who married Miriam, was down in Ayrshire.
Right. And you knew Miriam, obviously.
I knew Miriam. And Miriam gave me a wee phone and says, look, Andy's wanting back into this game, wants to, start playing again.
So was he not playing football?
He was out.
In and out.
And out. And I brought him in, and you just look at him, you think, you don't need to train, mate. You're abundance of talent. So I went to the chairman and I said, we need to get this guy in here.
For air this is, you're trying to get for air, right?
Yeah, the deal was nearly done, right? And then next minute I got a phone call from Miriam, oh, by the way, Andy's moving up to Motherwell.
So did you tell him that you were going to sign Andy Goram?
I'm phoning Goram.
He done me 4-3. And I was going to take his pants down at some point, right? So what I done, Si, is I phoned up the goalie. I heard the goalie was dealing with the Dazzler. Yeah. And I thought, this is a great time for me to take his pants down. I spoke to the goalie. I spoke to the chairman, John Boyle. I says, Chairman, I think we should bring in somebody with great pedigree, somebody great in the dressing room, a great leader type. There's no doubt he's a loose cannon. I said, but this guy would be fantastic for this club. John Boyle leaned across the desk and he said to me, Billy, be on your own head. He said to me, I went, no problem, Chairman. And I got to the goalie and we managed to take him away.
But again, that says a lot about you as a young manager that goes and gets a player at Andy Goram's pedigree, the manager that he's had previously. Did you not have any fear that, again, that kind of imposter syndrome, like I might not be as good as a Walter Smith, he might not look at me as a top manager?
No, all I was going to do is try and bring in quality players. And we brought in a lot of very good, talented players, experienced players. Don Goodman is another one that came in. Spenny came in, Andy Goram came in, Jed Brannan came in. And at that point, John Boyle's instruction was that he wanted to make Motherwell the third force in Scottish football. That's what he wanted. And that's why when the club decide that's the level of salary, or when the club decide that's the objective, then you start to bring in these quality players, or you start to identify these guys with pedigree, and you had to fill this dressing room up with character, belief, ability, confidence. And as a young manager, it was a great experience for me dealing with the Andy Gorams, and they're not the quietest bunch, size, you know. They're all
way to start management.
They're all pretty.
You shouldn't learn your trade because you can't show them
weakness.
Exactly. We've all. Billy's obviously dealt with a lot bigger characters than me. I had some air, and as a young guy myself, I'm thinking, if I back down here, I'm going to lose this. I'm going to lose the respect. And when you deal with Andy Goram, and the one thing, like Billy and I think it was because we get back to that discipline that being brought up at Rangers. We weren't feared to go and face. We knew what Andy was and the reputation. And one of the best goalkeepers ever, the goalie was, you know, but everybody knew his lifestyle. But we were still prepared to take. And by the way, I've got to say, it was a genius because he was brilliant for him. Brilliant.
What about Spencer? He's your brother-in-law?
Spencer's my brother-in-law. Again,
was he your brother-in-law at that time?
Yes, and again, I said to you, I think we needed to bring in some goal scoring option. And Spenny was out the team at Everton, and I said to John, John, look, my brother-in-law's playing with Everton. Obviously, his pedigree, his ability to score goals, the experience in the Premier League in England, playing for his national team. He was a goal scorer, but what he had was character in the dressing room. And I wanted to try and bring in some character, some real personality that can lift and help the Lee McCullochs and the Stephen McMillans and all these other young guys. And I left it to John. It became a financial decision for John Boyle whether he takes this lad from Everton. Obviously, he was on big money, Si, and his contract. And then John met Spenny in the West End. Him and Spenny had a conversation, and John said to me that he would take on the contract, and he was happy to meet that contract and bring Spenny to the club, and that's how it came about.
Wow. Amazing. What do you think of modern day managers now who, like you're explaining here, you're basically doing everything, mate. You're doing the coaching, you're dealing with your chief exec, you're doing the transfers. What do you make of like management now when you see the teams of staff that they've got behind them?
Well, I think it's important that managers understand how the game's evolving. But at the same time too, in relation to football, the manager has to have control. Yeah. Because without control, it becomes a mismatch. And I'm not saying control of pies and no control of commercial and no control of bodies. Control of football, where you're actually sitting there and being on the training ground every single day. The sporting director or the director of football, whatever side, is very important. But you really need to be on the training ground every day to put the finger on the pulse and to know exactly what you need and what's required. And that's why I think a manager is very important for him. And on the football side, to have that control, which is vital.
What about transfers then? Would you be willing to go into somewhere where somebody else is picking players and identifying targets?
I don't think a manager should fight over transfers in modern football. I think you should leave that to other people. If the club want to ask the manager about transfers, then the manager has got a right to advise the club and say, here's what I think you need for the left back. Here's the type of player I think you should bring in. Here's the type of personality we need, etc. I think the manager can then advise what he thinks. He can then give some options that him and his coaching staff and the scouting team have went and looked at. But ultimately, Si, in modern football, I would advise young coaches and managers, don't fight a fight you're not going to win. Let the club, if that's how the club wants to go about their business, if it's down to the sporting director, if it's down to the director of football, the owner, no problem at all. You go on and you work the best way that you can with the squad that you've got.
The players you've got. Talking to the players, best memories with Andy Goram?
I'm sitting in my office one afternoon, early afternoon, we just finished training, the goalie never turned up. And I'm sitting in my office and I get a call from Mirren. And she said to me, Billy, you couldn't do me a big favour, could you? Andy's sitting in a pub in Paisley Road West. Could you go and get him out of the pub and get him to come home? I'm thinking, Miriam, it's your man. What do you want me to do here? Obviously, I need to discipline him, and I'll discipline him the following day. So I jump in my car and I say, no problem, Miriam, I'll go and get the goalie. And I drive down to Paisley Road West and I go into this, I can't remember the name of the pub, Si. and I remember getting into the front door of this pub, and it was like the gunfight at the OK Corral with the smoke, and there was 3 or 4 guys sitting at the bar, and as I opened the door it went one of these things, and they all turned around and looked, and the place is pitch black, and right at the very back there's 4 guys sitting at a round table, and as I starts to walk up through the kind of group that's in here, I get closer and closer, and I see the goalie. He's got his back to me, so he's sitting with his back to me, and they're sitting playing dominoes. And I walks up, and at this point 2 or 3 of his buddies see me coming, and they start to kick him under the table. And as I get closer and closer, the goalie turns his head, and he goes, "All right, Gaffer, fancy a game of dominoes?" I've got a double six. So I swear to God, I says, "Andy, come on, what's happening?" "Oh, Gaffer, I says, "Andy, listen, come on, we need to get you right here. We need to get you out of here, get you ready, and get you back into training." I'm down at the training ground.
It was Saturday, 12 o'clock, we were playing.
So I said to you, sorry, of course he came with me.
And you sat in your motor and you took him up the road?
I'm going to sit and leave him in there. We've got a club to run, we've got games to win, we've got preparation. And when his dad said...
Did you let him finish his hand first?
I'll let him finish his hand. Andy's
double check.
So, when you talk about the Mavericks, and this is what I said to you, you need to allow Mavericks to sometimes come off the rails.
Yeah.
They're going to do that, but you've got to just try and manage them and work with them. And then I get some back, and we do what we do. 2 or 3 other events that happened. I'll never forget going to Celtic Park just after remember the glove thing? There's some...
Smell the glove or something?
Smell the glove or something.
Right,
Si, I'm not joking you, the journey in that bus with the Motherwell team going to Celtic, I think this was the goalie's first time getting back maybe.
Right.
Can't remember. And it was just horrific what we went. The travelling along, the amount of stick that this guy took. And this guy talks about characters. This was like water off a duck's back for this guy. And the character that he showed that whole event, building up to going to the game, being in the bus, going into Celtic Park, playing in front of that crowd, etc. It was just, it was again another eye-opener for a young manager. And then lastly, we're on the training ground. We're halfway through the training session. And you know Motherwell's training session's got a big kind of wire fence all the way around it, doesn't it? What do you call it? DL Park.
Yeah.
We're on the training ground, and the goalie, during the training, runs off the training pitch, and he comes up to me and says, "Gaffer, I need to go." I say, "Go where, goalie?" He said, "I need to go. See they 4 guys up in that car outside this fence? They're not a good type, Gaffer. I need to get myself here." He said to me. I'm like, what is happening here?
So you just done the bolt?
I said, "Goalie, get yourself up the road, sir." I said, "You need to do what you need to do. Get away and look after you and your family."
Was he incredible though as a goalie?
Listen, see when the training started, this guy was just, it was like a switch. The way that he gave the stick to his teammates, it didn't stop shots, stop crosses. Even in warm-ups, when crosses weren't getting delivered properly, he let it rip.
I love that.
He let it rip. And he was a great lad to work with. And he was a great, he had what he had, as Dad said. His lifestyle was a certain thing. He was a fantastic goalkeeper. He was a wonderful character in the dressing room. And eventually I gets the call from Alex Ferguson to say to me, "Billy, I want to sign Andy Goram."
Again, can you talk us through that? Like, are you just sitting in your office one day and none of the wise and Alex Ferguson rings your phone?
I'm sitting in the office, and right out the blue I gets a call from Fergie. And Fergie said to me, all the small talk as the usual, "How are you?" and all that stuff. He said, "Billy," he said, "I'm looking to bring in a 3rd goalkeeper," I think he said to me. 2nd or 3rd goalkeeper. He said, "I'm very keen in signing Andy Goram, and I'm just giving you a courtesy call." I said, "Alec, no problem, obviously. I need to go to the board. The board will need to make a decision." I says, "But this is something that you really can't stop, Si."
Yeah.
What an opportunity for this goalkeeper. Even at the heights that he's been at, this is a move and a half. So I spoke to the chairman and the chief exec. I brought in the goalie. I told the goalie, and the goalie was obviously, he was like a cat with 2 tails. I mean, he was thinking, "Oh my God." And eventually the goalie was on his way down to Manchester. And
I remember meeting him years ago after that, and he says to me, "I wish to sign where."
You mentioned John Boyle there. How pivotal was he for you in your first job in management? He seems like he backed you.
Listen, John made it clear. John came in with a great intention. He wanted to be the third force in Scottish football, and he was wanting to have a right go at it. And he came in and he certainly put his money where his mouth is. And unfortunately, I think it was the only club to go into administration in the UK after that. And I think it was it 19 sackings or whatever, redundancies. But I've got to say, my time there, Si, he really had a good intention.
Yeah.
His heart was in the right place. He was trying to make the signings and make that club exactly what he thought it could be. And unfortunately, things just didn't go the way it went.
Need to ask you again, you mentioned him, a young Lee McCulloch. What was he like to work with back then?
Yeah, Big Jig was a great lad. Great, the man of many positions. No matter where you played him, he was always working for the team. And just a great team player. And it's such a joy to see Big Lee go and do what he done in his career. And another one that should not be out of coaching at the minute. Again,
you mentioned all these experienced players. Was it maybe in your second season that you started to blood the young players in, once you'd maybe been a bit more established as a manager?
Yeah, if I remember right, Si, we had that. We were trying to get that blend between the young and the experienced. But these young guys at Motherwell, we couldn't stop their progression either. And that's why Stevie McMillan and Lee McCulloch in particular, they get that opportunity to go to England.
Yeah.
And when that happens, then the club have got, I think, an easy decision, because a lot of football clubs have to be a development club. They have to develop young players and then be prepared to let these young boys go to bigger and better things.
So what was the thinking behind Faddy? Was there a particular session where he was with the first team, you see him playing a reserve game and you thought, he's ready now?
No, just at training. The way the confidence that this boy had, the way he went past people, the belief that he had in his own ability. He had this wee string of hair at the back.
That's right.
He had that as well, that he just thought this guy's just got something that's required at an early age to break into a team and to be able to handle that dressing room.
I now can confirm he's not got that string of the hair.
That's what he's in for that string now,
exactly.
He would do that with
exactly. He was just a player with an abundance of ability, but more importantly, I think his confidence at a young age was the thing that made him different.
Again, was it that thing of no changing him when you talk about like the person be their characters? Because I would remember being a young boy, you had to get your hair cut, you were allowed. Would you just let them be as they were?
You can't put these guys on two-touch, Si.
Yeah.
You don't tell Davie Cooper you're playing two-touch in training. Some other people you need to put on two-touch. Other ones you tell it to be playing certain zones.
Yeah.
But when you get to the Faddies and the Davie Coopers and the guys like that, you've just got to let them be what they are. They will sometimes lose possession. They'll sometimes try and beat the man too many. But 9 times out of 10, they will produce a cross or a pass or a shot or a piece of skill that wins you games or helps you win matches.
Last thing I wanted to ask you about Roberto Martinez. Is it from Swansea you took him?
Yeah, brought Roberto. It might have been Wigan.
Wigan,
in fact,
right.
If I remember, I can't remember, Si, but what I do remember is at that point we started to bring in some experienced players. David Kelly, who played with the Republic and 110 other football clubs in England, Newcastle, Sunderland, West Ham and all these people, vastly experienced striker. At that point we were on a change again. There was a number of people going out, people leaving, and we brought in Roberto and we brought in Ned Kelly. Became two very good friends. Roberto was a very talented midfield player, ball player, and he come up here probably at the wrong time because the club was changing. The club was heading down a path where administration was coming in, redundancy was coming in, change of manager was coming in, and I think these guys just come in at the club at the wrong time. And but again, fantastic lad, Roberto and Ned, first class boys to bring in.
Was Roberto similar to you, like quite inquisitive in terms of training, or was he not interested?
No,
in
he was a very quiet boy.
Was he? No,
he was quite a quiet lad.
So would he not been one that you'd seen going on to be a manager?
Yes, he was very thorough. He was a thinker. He certainly was not. He was not a kind of a Andy Goram, John Spencer, Gordon Dalziel type character. Loud and proud and funny, and but Roberto was much more of a dignified, quiet guy. More. I wouldn't say an introvert as such. He's not an introvert. He believed in himself and he could play, but certainly you could see that he was very much like Davie Moyes. I found Davie Moyes at Dunfermline. Big Moyes was a thinker. But he was one that was always going to courses, always going down to games, and I felt that Roberto Martinez was very similar to Moisey.
And then obviously the club's financial struggle, is that what played in the part in you leaving, mate?
Well, we heard that through the grapevine that there was going to be changes. Obviously, there was things took place in the summer during the pre-season in France. We'd heard that there was one or two things going on, and the changes were afoot. And then, of course, I get tipped off regarding potential financial issues and what have you, and I found myself leaving the club.
So you decided to leave? Did you just phone John Boyle and say that's me done?
No. It was kind of a mutual thing. I think they knew and I knew, and I think we both knew it was time for a change.
Yeah.
And that's when the conversation took place with Pat Nevin and with John Boyle, where they decided they were going to bring in, I think it was Eric Black and Terry Butcher.
Right.
I think they were deciding to bring them in, the guys that took us in pre-season training that summer, incidentally.
Oh, really? Wow.
Then, all right.
So what? I'm a bit baffled by that situation.
You make your own mind up.
They took the pre-season training?
They were organising pre-season trips.
For the club?
For the club.
While you were the manager?
Yes. And we had organised to go to France by these guys.
Wow. How strange.
How strange.
Yeah.
Football's a strange place.
Yes, it is. Even stranger than this for me, because you've done really well in your first stint as manager. You then decide to go as an assistant to Craig Brown at Preston.
Again, right out of the blue, I don't know this guy. I've been to 2 or 3, like Dazzler, I've been to 2 or 3 coaching courses. I've heard them speak, but I don't know this guy at all. And again, it came about because Tosh McKinley had phoned me up as a manager of Motherwell. And Tosh asked me to come in and have training facility. And I brought Tosh in for 6 or 8 weeks. He was absolutely magnificent pro. A joy to work in the training ground.
What a guy.
Fantastic guy.
Pinstripe suit on every day.
Fantastic guy. Yeah. Absolute.
Never took his tie off.
Tremendous boy. Tremendous boy.
Not
but they tell me, Si, that I had Betty Pride, who was my PA. I got on great with. She was Jock Brown's PA at Celtic. And then I brought Tosh in. And apparently Tosh was very complimentary to Jock Brown. And then Jock got to Craig. Craig then phoned me up and asked me whether I'd come down to Preston as a first team coach. And I thought, wow, what an experience this is.
Yeah. Did you know Craig Brown?
Oh, I knew Craig well, aye, because Craig
outside
was...
the work.
Aye. Craig used to come into my office all the time when he was an Ayrshire guy.
Right.
You know, we'd done the coaching courses. Craig was the manager of Scotland. And
the guy you'd go to for advice when you were manager there?
I wouldn't really go for advice. I'd have a cup of tea with him and he would come in and ask me how things were going and stuff like that. But he was always round about the Ayrshire. He would come to a lot of our games because obviously he had a lot of friends in Ayrshire as well. He lived down that way.
Yeah.
So I make no mistake, this guy was very assured of himself back then. I mean, he was. And to be honest with you, without blowing smoke up his backside, he should have went bigger and better. And probably because of a wee bit of naivety, this guy had a good side. This guy was doing a great job. This guy was getting to cup finals and semi-finals. And I've got to say to you, his teams back then were very well organised, very disciplined. And he certainly knew what he was doing. And I think he should have went a lot higher and what he did, and that's not because of his ability. Yeah. That's just because of management things and timing and all that stuff.
See what you're talking about, going for a manager assistant. See, if I ever get the opportunity, I would do it as well.
That's what I've done. I've went assistant.
Yeah, because I think you realise what a manager needs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you've been in these shoes.
Yeah.
And we always talk about it's very hard to criticise and have a go at people unless you've stood in the shoes. So if you've done that as a manager and you go back as an assistant, you kind of know what the manager's going through.
Yeah.
You know, if there's a bad time there, you know how to get them through that with, the help and stuff like that, and the encouragement and whatever. So I think I obviously have a look at the boy's career. He's went on to, what he's managed. So it was the right decisions.
I'm the opposite.
Right.
I want nothing but head coach, manager.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Now.
How did you find that then at the time, going from being a head coach to being an assistant?
Well, it was a strange one because Craig obviously we were travelling down the first time, and I'm speaking to this Scotland manager, all these championships that he'd been involved in, World Cups and 70 games I think it was, and here I am going down here as a first team coach, and it was just a pleasure to watch him work on a day-to-day basis.
In terms of what, Billy, what was he good at?
And he was a great politician. He knew how to handle people. Right. He was very clever. He was very clever off the pitch. He was a great politician, and he knew how to play the game and how to go about it. He wasn't the quiet guy that we think. When he needed to kick off, he could kick off. I've watched him kick off many a time. But it was just an experience, just listening to him talk and how he handled certain situations, certain events that took place, certain things that come up. It was just an absolute pleasure. The only thing I would say to you, that a couple of things. Very early I tried to advise him not to spend 300 grand on his new teeth. That was, I tried to say to him, Craig, see these implants, don't spend 300 grand on your teeth. It's not going to make any difference to you. And he spent about 300 grand on his teeth. And the second thing, Si, was we went into the first pre-season, and I'll never forget it. And he's got all the team doing all the sit-ups and the press-ups. And of course I'm going about shout, come on, keep it going. And I turns around and there's Craig lying doing sit-ups and press-ups. And I looks at this frame and I thinks, what is he doing? I says, Gaffer, you can't be doing sit-ups and press-ups. And then the last thing, Si, with Craig, see when he used to travel to games, he could drive his car with his knees. It's a true story.
Well, with his hands made, I'm not going to ask you what his hands made.
This guy could actually be seated in a certain way where he's actually could drive his car. And I used to say to him constantly, Craig, and I was going to all these games, and I'm saying, and his glasses would be down to his nose, and he'd be like on his phone, and I'd be going, Craig, go on and watch the road, and he'd be like, driving these cars, right? Anyway, listen, I've got to tell you, he gave me tremendous experience, and it was an absolute joy to work with this guy.
He lost his job August 2004-2005. Why did he end up leaving Preston?
Well, he phoned me up. I think we played at Brighton away. Can't remember the game, Si. I got the call on the Sunday to tell me that the club are making a change. And I says to Craig, Craig, I come in with you. I want to leave with you. And Craig went and spoke to the board. I'm told, Si, there was a lot of player power for me to stay at the club. That's what I was told. I wanted Craig to go to the club. He went to the club. He spoke to the chairman. I spoke to the chairman. My advisor spoke to the chairman, and the chairman refused to let me go. He wanted me to stay. I'm told because of player power. The players wanted that to happen. I then spoke to Craig, and Craig said, Billy, look, you're a young guy with a young family. I've got a pension that could choke a horse. Stay here. Stay here and learn your trade. So he gave me his blessing. I eventually sat tight, done about 5 or 6 caretaker manager things, and then eventually after the 5 or 6 games they offered me the job.
What did you change in terms of what Craig was doing?
I made sure I never done any sit-ups. I wasn't putting my frame on the ground. I made sure my teeth were not getting touched. But no, you don't change. What you do is you go in there and you have your own belief. For example, you go in there and you change warm-ups and you try to advise them and you respect the manager. And as an assistant, and that's the great thing about Pathway, Si, as I said to you, it's great being a first team coach because you can talk about what it feels like. It's great being a number 2, great being a manager, etc. And I would always advise him, and I would always say to him, Craig, I don't think you should do this warm-up. The players don't like this circle warm-up. Change it. They're getting bored with the warm-up. But you're the gaffer. You're the man.
Yeah, it's up to you.
But I'm only telling you as your assistant manager, there's a bit of grumble coming for the dressing room. The guys are no like that, or they're no like that, or whatever. So I think that was important for me to be the loyal guy to him, but at the same time to respect him as a manager. Mm. And he's got to stick to his beliefs. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring out my beliefs, how we play, building up for the back. Are we a passing team? What kind of shape? Are we going to be rotation in midfield? Are we going to be tramline? What do we expect our wingers to be? They talk about inverted fullbacks. The great Manchester City manager with inverted fullbacks. I was playing inverted fullbacks at Preston with Graham Alexander and Callum Davison, and we would swap them over constantly. And both of these guys were very comfortable. So you've got to bring out your own beliefs, Si, whether it be wingers opposite side, whether it be rotational midfield players, whether it be a system of play that you want to play. I'm not one system manager. I like a back 4, but I like my middle to front to be rotational. I don't like them playing pockets or tram line. So you've got to implement your belief and your style.
Where did you get these beliefs, Billy? Sorry to interrupt you, but when did you start? Was it just through the course of your career that you came up with a way of playing that you liked?
Well, I don't know, Si. Maybe I would regard myself as a ball-playing midfield player. Maybe my style of play that I liked when I played, passing the ball, switching play, linking play, getting into the thirds and building back to front. That obviously had an impact, but also learning from people. I think learning from coaches, learning from managers, being at different clubs and learning what you've done, I think that's very important. And when you get into the club, you've just got to sit down, you've got to stick to your beliefs on what you've done. And thankfully I won the dressing room over, which is important. Thankfully I got the respect for the dressing room. And then of course we had some tremendous years.
Amazing. Would you coach all that in the training pitch, the full backs and the midfield rotation? Yeah,
I'm a tracksuit manager.
Are you, mate? Right.
I am nothing else but a tracksuit manager. I don't mind Monday, Tuesday. I'll give my staff their place Monday, Tuesday. Monday, I normally like to bring the academy up and bring the 18s up, and I like them to train with the first team. So what I normally do on the Mondays, I maybe have a little round robin tournament where the young boys get to experience the senior players and they get to enjoy that environment, just in case we need to bring them into the first team. Tuesdays, Si, is normally a physical day. Yeah. I would probably take a step back and let the staff go and do the finishing drills and the running drills and all the kind of shuttle runs and all the things that's required. And then in the afternoon, we would normally have a session in the afternoon. And then in the first team you did a double session on a Tuesday? Yes, always. Yeah, always. I believe that those two sessions are very important, technically and physically. And then I'd give them the Wednesday off, and this is when a manager becomes, I think a manager needs to take over. The Wednesday afternoon I would start to drop things into people's head. So I'd go to Si and I'd say, Si, just mark your card, you want to play on Saturday? I'm going to play you in the left. You're playing against this guy, they play this system. Start to get your head around it. I'm telling you now, we're getting fucking beat if you play me on the left back. I've got bad news for you. You're actually not playing. You've not made the spot. So what you do is you start to build as a manager. You start to take control on the Tuesday afternoon. You start to implement your shape and you do certain things. And then I would get myself, when it came to team shape, when it came to structure of departments, back four, midfield 4, front 2 or whatever, then I would start to go into these small-sided games, half-pitch games, practice match situations. I would then bring in the young boys. I would explain to them what I'm expecting them to do in relation to the opposition that we're playing. And I regard myself as a tracksuit manager, Si. And see that playing it for the back, because I played down in England about that time, that wasn't a done thing back then. So were you kind of going against the norm by playing it for the back? No, I think it's horses for courses. I think there's a time and place to play. And there's a time and place where you've just got to go direct. Yeah. And again, it depends on league position, it depends on time of year, it depends on all these things. So you can't just say we're going to play for the back. It's the middle of December, it's no stop raining for 5 days, and the pitch is covered in mud. So we've got to be clever in relation to how we can play, what type of team we're playing against, what their culture is. Are they a pressing team? Are they a passing team? Are they a physical team? And we've got to put a lot of thought into how we play, but at the same time too, we've got to, as Daz will tell you, we've got to stick to our style and try and implement our style as much as possible. Love it. First season you got to the playoff final, against West Ham. Yeah. Where were they when you first took over? Bottom 6. Wow. I made a huge mistake, Si, I've got to say. Why? Looking back on the West Ham final, and I get asked this question quite a lot. What did you think? What would you change? I'm a manager that believes I don't like training 3 days before a game. I think giving the players a rest and then 2 days then game, for me, is very important. I understand that Cloughy gave the players 4 days off and brought them in on the Friday. I understand other managers like to train the 3 days before the match and then the game. I'm a great believer that I like to train Monday, double Tuesday. Again, this is week to week, this is only 1 game a week. Monday, double Tuesday, off Wednesday. I would probably do a double on Thursday with the guys that have not played, that have been injured or are suspended. I'd do a little session the Thursday afternoon. But I certainly believe that 2 days before the game, we need you fresh. Against West Ham, I decided, Si, because of preparation, I decided that's to change it. I trained 3 days before the game. And I also decided, because a lot of these guys hadn't played at the Millennium Stadium, I decided to take them to the Millennium Stadium the night before the game, or 2 nights before the game.
To get used to the surroundings.
To get used to the surroundings, to go into the dressing room, to feel the environment, to don't walk in there surprised in the match day. Don't get me wrong, Si. We ultimately lost the game because our centre-half slipped inside the box trying to cut out a cross. And they go, and I think it was Bobby Zamora that goes and scores and sticks the ball into the back of the net. We can sit here and we can blame all sorts of things, and we can say it's because of a system. You know, it's like Fergie. I say to people, do you think that Fergie, if Solskjaer wasn't put on so late in the game in Germany, when Man United were down, losing the game with 4 minutes to go, I think Fergie stuck on Solskjaer and Sheringham, and they go and win 2-1. What are we going to say to Fergie after the game? You got your starting team wrong. You can sit here and you can
overanalyse it.
You can talk about the boots that you wore. You can talk about the structure that you played. You can talk about you didn't do this or you didn't do that or whatever. Ultimately, the final was lost because the player that was trying to cut out the cross slipped and they scored. From my point of view, if I was overcritical, I would say that maybe the 3 days before the game, trying to prepare these players, and Daz will tell you, you can over-prepare sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe.
How do you pick players up after a result like that? Because we got to the playoff final in League One, and the next year we got relegated. There was just like a tiredness about us. We were flat. Thinking you could have been in the Championship.
Is that where your experience comes in? You have to get that freshness into the dressing room?
Not just the freshness. I think you've got to learn to find that balance. I don't buy into getting too high, winning, too low, losing. This is a long season. There's a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of adversity. There's a lot of great times. And when you're looking at a mid to long term project, then you know we had overachieved that season. Our budget was, I think, 6 million, and West Ham's budget was 35 million.
Wow.
We were playing against a top club in the final. And it was an overachievement. So you start the next season, and again, what you do is you start. You must hit this ground running with the disciplines, the additions that you bring in. Again, you think about the players that you've already currently got under contract, and you just go about and do it again. And thankfully, we hit the ground running, and we went on a great run.
Am I right in you saying job done after the 1-1 draw the first leg at Ellen Road?
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Go for it.
I'm so glad you spoke about that. We're playing Leeds at Leeds, first leg of the semi-final. And we draw 1-1. My old player, Eddie Lewis, scores with a great free kick to make it 1 each at Ellen Road. Place is jam-packed. And after the game, this experienced manager says to the press, in relation to the 1-1 draw away in the first leg of the playoffs, getting a 1-1 draw at Ellen Road is job done. What they beautifully done is they changed the words. Because I then go on and say, this tie's far from finished. We've got a great result, 1-1. There's a second leg to come up. We all know what can happen in the playoffs. You can never rely on anything. But they took my words out of context. So what they done is that I said, in relation to the first leg, getting a 1-1 draw is job done.
That's what you wanted to that game yet.
No, what they done is they cut out the but.
Right.
And then they let it run into their supporters. They let it run into their dressing room. And I'll be honest with you, Si, I've got great respect for people that play these games. Because to get the edge, the winning edge, sometimes you need to play those games. I've done it myself. So, and Dazzler will tell you. So that was a tactic in a game that they played beautifully. Don't get me wrong, the second leg comes up. Brett Ormerod breaks his leg after 10 minutes. 20 minutes into the game, the floodlights go out. We then lose the first goal from the player of the season called Mawene, the centre back. And on the night, we just didn't perform. But I can tell you, Si, the job done thing was absolute
nonsense.
Taken out of context. A tactic used very cleverly by the Leeds people and the Leeds local press. To get that edge, sometimes you need to find these wee things, as Daz will tell you. It was a good move.
It's like people saying, oh, we've pinned up what they said in the dressing room, innit? Many times you heard that. You're right. Sometimes you've got to accept that somebody's actually probably manoeuvred you a little bit.
Good move, very good.
It's worked for their benefit.
It worked for me. I've done it in the past as well, many
exactly.
times.
See that 25 game unbeaten run, from your point of view, what was it about that squad at that time that was capable of doing things like that? And was it a consistent team that you played, or were you good with rotation?
Discipline.
It's discipline, right?
No losing goals in training. No getting 1-2'd. Stopping crosses, stopping shots.
And if that happened in training, would you stop it?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, no problem at all.
Yeah.
And I'd be very fierce on the demand and the discipline, because if you're going to, that great saying, Si, if you don't bleed in training, you'll no win matches in a Saturday. You've got to bleed in training, so you've got to do the same things. You've got to be a disciplined team. You've got to be a team that can keep clean sheets. You've got to have all these standards of play, in possession, out of possession. You've got to put the demands on the strikers to hunt people and retain possession. You've got to put demands on the defenders. So the reason for the run, I think, is because this was a very disciplined team. Not only that, Brian O'Neill, Graham Alexander, Callum Davison, Jonathan Gould, Richard Creswell, David Nugent, Eddie Lewis. We had guys that, if I said to them about a set play, Daz, here's a corner today, here's a free kick today, here's what we're doing defensively, here's what their strength is. This was a team that stuck to the words rigidly. They never let me down at set plays, whether it's for or against, and that also applied in training. If we didn't lose many goals in training.
Nugent was a great signing.
Nugent, great player, wasn't he?
Great.
You signed him for what?
He was, funny enough, I went to see a guy called Nathan Tyson. My chief scout asked me to go and see a guy called Nathan Tyson.
Did he go on to play with Forest as well, Tyson?
He went on to play with Forest, Tyson, yeah. Left-sided player, very quick, great pace, a real handful, Tyson. I can't remember the game. I think it was Wickham. I can't remember, Si. But I went along to this game and I noticed this guy called Nugent. And I remember saying to my chief scout, what about this guy Nugent? And my chief scout said to me, no, Gaffer, don't touch him. Too many people have looked at him. And too many have turned their back on him. They don't fancy him. Always go with your gut instinct. At the end of the day, you need to go with your gut instinct. You can listen to as many people as you like, but you've got to go with your gut instinct. And there was something told me about this guy, that this guy had something a wee bit special. So I go back, I speak to Derek Shaw, the chairman. I say, Chairman, I think we should go for this guy, David Nugent. Great pace, funny style of runner, funny gait, the way he moved, but gets past people. A real handful in the night. And we signed him for 99,000 and the club eventually sold him for 6.5 million.
Wow. How important?
And that's why you need to go with your gut instinct.
Just on signing a Nugent, any other amazing signings that you got throughout your career?
There's been tons of very good players at each club, Si. I've got to say that I could sit here and talk to you at every club. There's been great signings. People have made tremendous impact. For example, the big striker I brought in at Derby called Stevie Howard.
Yeah.
Just a big, typical championship striker. But again, I looked at his background. I needed a character. He was opinionated. He would stand up and give it to people when he didn't put proper crosses in or put through balls through to him. And I decided that through the backbone of the team at Derby, it was important to bring in other bits and pieces like that.
Well, we're just getting on to Derby there. So as you say, you got to play a final with Preston and then Derby coming in for you in 2006.
Yeah, again, out the blue that I'd found out, funny enough, that I was, and I tried to stay at Preston, but I found out that my CV was getting touted all over England.
By Preston?
By Preston. And
why?
Because they wanted to cash in. They wanted to add 22 playoffs. They believed it was time for a new manager or time for a change or whatever it may be. And then, of course, at that stage, my stock was high. And when I got the call to be told, and I met the chairman in the Swallow Hotel, Preston, and I made it clear to him, I says, Derek, look, 2 playoffs, I believe we can do it the third time. We want to have a real go, but you need to look after my staff. My staff have done a great job. We've got to the playoffs. The season ticket sales are through the roof. The commercial department's through the roof. The club shop's through the roof. I said, we've done really well. Let's have a real go. And he said to me, sorry, Billy, but we can't. At that point, I didn't know. And then I found out weeks later that they were touting my CV all over England. What was interesting is that they let me speak to Charlton in the Premier League. They refused me to speak to Derby in the Championship, and then they allowed me to speak to Nottingham Forest in League One. I went and spoke to Charlton, and there was just some things about it, Si, that didn't feel right. Premier League wage, Premier League job. It wasn't a financial decision. It had to be a football decision. I went and spoke to Derby, blank sheet of paper, turn around the academy, turn around the first team, 3-year plan, year 1 mid-table, year 2 top 10, year 3 promotion. And I looked at that challenge, 50% less salary, although the Preston fans said I was a greedy so-and-so for leaving the club. It was actually, I took 50% less that I could have got at Charlton, eventually went to Derby. I felt that was a very good challenge, turning the whole club around. And we went there and we done what we done.
The youth side of things, I don't know if you'll remember us, we played Celtic when I was a kid, played Preston at Deepdale, I don't know if you remember, it was like another, and you were at the game as the Preston manager.
Yes, yep. I believe, and again, this is just an opinion, I like to go to the academy games. I always try and integrate, for example, if you're part of the 18s, or you're part of the 20s, from time to time I will bring you up as a coach into the first team to take part in the first team coaching.
So you would take an under-18s coach?
Absolutely. I think it's crucial for your development that we bring you in and let you gain experience working with the first team staff and working with the first team players. And I would do the same way. Most of the staff at different levels, and also the young players as well. And if you look at my history, Si, every club, Preston, Julian Derby was an academy coach. Forest, Chris Fairclough, ex-England centre-half, was an academy coach. And I've done the exact same at Derby with academy coaches. I think progressing the academy coaches and the 18s and the B team guys, and I always integrated these guys as much as I could, I think is very important.
Brilliant. Love that. So you're saying it was a 3-year plan to get up and you do it in the first year?
Well, we start off again, 3-year plan. We go again and we make some very important signings. I talked to you about the spine. We bring in Stevie Howard up front. We bring in a guy called Matt Oatley, who was a Southampton captain.
Remember him, good player.
Great player, great lad. And we bring in a goalkeeper called Stephen Bywater. And I know that this Bywater guy is a real tricky one.
I've heard that he's a proper character.
Proper guy. I'll tell you a story about him in a minute. When you're ready to go into that, let me come back to you on it. So I started thinking about the spine of the team, bearing in mind that we've got an ageing team here. You know, we've got people like Darren Moore, Michael Johnson, Seth Johnson, a guy that was bought by Leeds United for 38. Absolutely.
Older.
Seth was that age as well, and Morten Visgaard, who was a Danish international guy, with a lot of quite a Paul Pesci-Salido striker, very good player, but aging squad. So I decided that I'm going to change it up a little bit. We've got 1 or 2 guys that their time is up, if you like. It's time for them to go on a fresh challenge, and we make the change. But I'll be honest, Si, the change is to be we just avoided relegation, and they just avoided it by the skin of their teeth, Dazzler. And it was all about being a hard to beat Derby in the first season. So I go there and I start to implement the things that we need to implement, like I done with Preston. Clean sheets, matching runs, 1-2s, compact, counter-attack, back in early, all the stuff that you talk about, Si. And we become a team that's hard to beat, and we find ourselves 11 months later heading into the playoff final with a chance to get in the Premier League. That's
incredible, isn't it?
Right.
2 years too early.
Yeah, 2 years
for everybody.
Before, yeah.
For everybody.
Did that worry you at that time then? Could you, as much as it's great to get that glory going, I've taken this 11 months, you're thinking, oh, hold on a minute, we're not ready for that massive jump.
I'll tell you what the worry was. I gets a call, Southampton at Southampton in the first leg, and I gets a call to be told that the club is getting sold to the Americans. They've already picked their manager, and their manager's coming in next season. So I bring my staff down, I speak to my staff, I say, look, I've just been told there's moves afoot here, there's a takeover taking place, the club are going to cash in and sell, and there'll be an outgoing board, and they're bringing in the manager and staff. I could even tell the staff who the manager was, and the manager was Paul Joe.
Right.
And I sit them down and I say, look, we're getting into these 2 playoffs here, and the club has decided it's going to go and do what it's doing. That's their prerogative. I've got no problem with that. We've got to be professional. We've got to go in here and get to the final and try and get to the Premier League. We're 2 years too early. We know we are. And what we need support if that happens. So we go, Si, and we do well in the first game, we do well in the second game, we get to the playoffs, but in the background, and if you look at my press conference after the game at Wembley, they tried to say it was a Billy Davies show, but I was asked the question, do you think you'll be here next season? And I turn around and says, I don't know, I can't answer that question, but I already knew. The press obviously were listening to me, trying to give them a message, but they turned it around and tried to make it something different, unfortunately. But it was clear that there was a change, and lo and behold, they have to go for public perception. I'm the king. I'm going round the open top bus in Derby. I don't know how many people are there doing it, and my staff are there, my players are there, everybody's there. It's great fun. So we knew that the moves were afoot, but we also knew that we had to go and get stuffed. And then the indication came when we started to try and identify top players. And the mistake that I made, I probably jumped in too early making signings when I should have really sat back and took my time. Because of the short period you've got after the playoff final, you end up making rush decisions rather than sitting tight. And lo and behold, 12 games later, whatever it was, we were getting stuffed. We were wide open. We were 2 years too early. We weren't ready for this challenge against these clubs, and we spent 10 million quid, obviously for the reason that I said to you. And months and months later, Paul Joel comes in.
And then talk us through Bywater. I've seen so many stories about him. How mad is he?
Well, one of the things that hit me, I watched him in the first couple of days training, and I thought, you're carrying too much timber. You're a fat basket. I need to tell you, you're a fat basket. I need to tell him.
Yeah.
And I know he's not going to like what I'm going to tell him. So I decide I'm going to get a training plan for him. I'm going to bring him in at 7 in the morning.
You had a fat club, didn't you?
At a fat club.
Right, without shaving for a bit.
I want to make sure that people know that there's a certain level of body fat and a certain weight that if you're going to abuse that position, then I'm going to put you into what's called the fat club. And in the fat club in pre-season, the fat club would come in a week earlier than the rest of the players. And they'd be sent on 30-mile bike rides, and they'd be sent on runs, and they'd do that week's training before the rest of the boys come in. And as you know, that caused a great deal of laughter amongst the group.
Yeah.
The boys that run a week early, they're in because their body fat's too high and all that stuff. So I bring Steve into the manager's office, and I sit him down and I said, Stevie, I'm going to change your training programme. What do you mean, Gaffer? Very opinionated, Si. Right. Real character. Yeah. Great lad. I said, Stevie, you're a fat basket. He sits back and he says, what? I said, I think you're a fat basket. I think you need to lose some timber. We need to get you into a training programme. I want you coming at 7 o'clock in the morning. I want you going a run with one of the coaching staff. I'm going to take you on a 30-minute run, 45-minute run, or maybe put you on a bike ride, whatever it is. But I want you to come in and do that training, Steve. And then I want you to get a shower, get your breakfast, and then go out and train with the team. He looked at me and he went, what are you doing this for? I said, because I want you in better condition. I don't think you're in a good enough condition. Long story short, we get to the playoff final, we win the playoff final, we go back to Derby, back to Pride Park for a big celebration. We're in the middle of the room and we're all doing what we're doing, all drinking champagne and having a laugh, and Stevie comes up and he grabs me and he pulls me into the corner and he said to me, I want to thank you very much for what you've done to me. He said, I was a fat basket. He said, and what you've done for me was absolutely fantastic. Fast forward the playoff final. After the playoff final, we go back to the team hotel. The party's going on to 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. And in this hotel, it had a kind of big circle with it. You could walk round and you would look down into the reception, right? And I'm with my wife very early in the morning. All the players are now well wasted, as you can imagine. And I'm now walking to my room. So I start and I walks around this balcony. I looks down at the reception, and big Stevie Bywater's lying in the reception with his bird lying on top of him.
His bird?
His bird. I looked down.
That's better than a 30-mile bike ride.
I've got my wife's eye, and I'm looking. I'm now in the balcony, and I'm looking down at and he's right in front of the reception. He's on the ground, and she's lying on top of him, and he's lying like that, and he looks up to me and he goes, All right, Gaffer. Fantastic. Fantastic. But he was a brilliant lad. And the same with Darren Moore. I done the same with Muro.
Was the Sheffield Wednesday manager? He's now Port Vale.
Yes, that's him.
Yeah.
Big Muro was another one. I felt that his training. He was 33. He was very fit, but I felt he was training too slow. He's training. For example, so if me and Daz are playing at the back, and we're playing a half-pitch game. There's no point in us sitting at the back here through this half-pitch game for 20 minutes or half an hour. What I would say to these two centre-halves is, I don't care about the losses in this particular game. It's a Tuesday. It's physical. What I want you to do, sometimes when you play a forward pass, I want you to make a 60-yard run forward and then touch a line or touch somebody and then make a 60-yard run back. Because I want you to build on your fitness. Yeah. Otherwise, the two will sit here and you'll hardly move an inch in this half-pitch game or whatever. So it was very important to me to look at all of these guys in certain positions. Muro was clearly needed part of that, but he needed to speed up his training. So I pulled him in and I said to him, Darren, 33, very senior guy, I want you to do extra things. So what I done is I got him involved in a lot of multi-directional runs, a lot of shuttles, and I made him do certain things in certain training sessions to speed up his training session. You know, and what we done is we took him from training, in my opinion, I felt he was training, sitting back as a centre half in a comfortable area, not really getting a lot out of the session, sitting in that position. All of a sudden I would go and say to him, I'd blow the whistle and say, go and touch the corner flag and come back. So what I would do is I would put certain things into him that would speed up his training session.
No, the best one I think, without giving you so much praise, the best one I've seen him, I was watching a practice match. I don't know if you were doing it on a Thursday. I think it was a Thursday. And was it Wes Morgan you sent off during the practice match?
I said to Morgs, I'm going to send you off. He said,
He planned it?
He planned it, yeah.
I said, I'm going to send you off. We're playing a 10v10 half-pitch game. And I said to Morgs, look, you've had quite a tough week this week. I want to take you and one or two others. I'm going to reduce the training Thursday, Friday. I don't think you need to train quite as hard. What I'm going to do, I'm going to upset people. I'm going to, for example, Daz has won a free kick. I'm going to give you a free kick to Si's team. Daz is going to say, okay, what's happening here? That's never a free kick. So I was trying to get into their head because I knew that the referee come up in the next game. I knew that this referee was quite a controversial referee and he could be quite difficult to handle. So building up, I thought it was important to give free kicks against people that it was wrong, upset people, get them agitated because this is a bad referee. And then I'd pull big Moors or whatever and I'd say to him, look, half an hour training session, that's you, go and get a bath, go and get a massage, I'm going to send you off. So sure as fate, the training would be gone and somebody would the ball would come into the box and somebody would head it away and I'd blow the whistle. I'd say, Morgs, red card for no picking up. What are you talking about? He said, what are you talking about? Off, red card. And away he'd go, walking off, and I'd play 11v10.
You go to adjust, didn't you?
Then I'd maybe go down to 11v9, or I'd maybe change the holes. So all these things, Si, are very important because this referee's going to cause controversy on Saturday. There's no point in you getting right decisions all week, then you come to a referee that's going to allow play to play on.
Yeah.
So you've got to make sure that the players are ready for the environment, for the crowd, for the small dressing room, for the type of referee it's going to be. What's the ball boy situation? Reading play a fantastic ball boy system back then. That basket Brian McDermott, and I gave him stick at Hibs just recently. They were fantastic. They had all these ball boys placed in certain places. And this was the most orchestrated ball boy you could come across. So what I done is I got in touch with the FA to find out what the rules and regulations were on the ball boys. And I found out that McDermott had actually an extra 4 or 5 ball boys on match day. So I done a video with the team and I showed the team, here's how their ball boys work and here's the position of the ball boys. Here's what they do. And I showed them clips about how these ball boys keep the ball when they're losing, keep the ball in certain times, in certain places, fire balls back in, where they were situated. I had a diagram. Listen, I
love it, mate.
I'm a nutter.
I love it, mate.
Believe me. You understand why I'm out of work. I'm a nutter. So I've got the diagram of these ball boys. And I've sat and I've studied these ball boys over games. And I've pinpointed exactly who sat where. And I've tried to find out exactly, obviously we've been watching games as well. And I've got to say, it was very important to be on the ball with that type of structure. And it's very important because I'm telling you, that ball goes out for a corner. So it goes out for it. So it goes out for the corner side. And what happens is there's not a designated corner kick taker.
Just the person that's closest.
The person that's closest to the corner kick. The ball boy runs across. He puts the ball back. You're all coming back in to pick up your man. The nearest man gets there. He fires the ball in, and Reading are already attacking the box.
Wow.
And that's the small
details, about 100%.
Very important.
I love it. Right, talking about preparation for games, you spoke about your build up to the last playoff games. How did you prepare differently for this one?
Well, again, it was slightly different. Again, it was a Monday game. What I done is I took the players away Wednesday, Thursday to this spa with a pitch, and I made sure that they were pretty relaxed. And we done our preparation, very low key preparation. I gave them the day off, which would be the Friday.
Right.
We trained on the Saturday. We then had an open session on the Sunday for the fans, for the goal, the kind of travel away to Wembley. And we had a big send-off from Pride Park. And I had the 2-day training session rather than the 3-day training. I'm not saying that's why we lost it. I'm just saying, but I kind of adjusted it slightly. The other thing about the Cardiff, the Millennium Stadium, we also flew down to Cardiff 3 days before the game. And again, I'm not sure that was a wise thing. So the good thing about it, 2 days away in the spa, day off, 2 days of training, open kind of session for the fans to see, and the big send-off, and down we go, and we put in a great performance.
We've asked you about like what you do in terms of training ground and your build up to games. What about in terms of dressing room? What is a typical Billy Davies team talk, especially for like a massive game like that?
Again, what's important to me is that because of the game, because of the emotion of the game, because of the pressure in the game, then it's all about low key. And even half time, sometimes in a game you've just got to understand it's a certain type of game, so you've got to come off who you would normally be. In this game I decided that my staff were very important before the game, and I had the flip chart up and I said to my staff, put something motivational up for the team. I'm going to flip the flip chart, and I want Si to put out something. What's your advice to this team before this game? We're playing West Brom. It's mobbed. We're at Wembley. It's £100 million price. Si, put it down. Daz, put it down. I get the kit man to put it down. I got the staff to put it down. I got the goalie coach so they all put down something motivational, their advice to the team. And I spent 5 minutes before we went out just going through that wee detail of letting the guys know, here's what Si, by the way, here's what Si thinks that he wants to tell you. And then that would come up, you would read it out, and away, next one does. Boys, I think you should do this, I think this, be careful with this, and you would just pour your heart out. But it was great advice. It was important. Terry the kitman at Forest was there for 50 years. Involve him. At Derby, we had one or two guys that had been there a long time. So even the kitmen had something to say. It didn't matter to me what they said. I'd already picked my team, done my pre-season, done my preparation side.
Was it a case you wanted the players to know what it meant to that kit man?
To everybody.
Everybody had been there for that long.
Absolutely.
And just quickly, memories of the game.
The game, we decided before the game, we were playing against a very, very strong West Brom. They had a Premier League squad. We were a hard to beat derby. We were a club that played a certain style which was hard to beat. We were very early on. We knew that they would control the ball. I made it clear to the players in the build-up 3-4 sessions before, here's how they'll play. Don't get too concerned with them controlling the ball, because we'll get at them in the second half. So don't feel under pressure. Just enjoy the defending. Enjoy the discipline, the concentration, the match and run, the winning header, picking up second ball. And it was all about getting to the second half. I pulled Giles Barnes, this young
Winger.
maverick that we had. Yeah. Powerful, direct, goal scorer, a real talent. But I decided not to play him. I decided to play an experienced Paul Pesky-Salido. And I pulled Pesh 2 days before the game, and I told him to have a hamstring in training. I said, you're going to have a hamstring in the Thursday training. I'm going to play you on Saturday. but I want you to pull out with a hamstring. You don't need to train Thursday, Friday. You're ready to go. Save your legs. So he took a hamstring on the Thursday on the training pitch. He went off the pitch and told everybody, between me and him, he told everybody that he's done his hamstring and nothing to do, he's not going to make the game at the weekend. But he's going to go to the game as part of the travelling squad. I told Barnes he wasn't going to play because I think the last 30 minutes that Barnes is going to be very important. I think you could get at them in the last 30 minutes. I think your direct running and your power and pace could cause them a problem. So we turn up at the game and I named the team and Pesh is playing. And you can imagine the shock in the dressing room. It was like, the hell did this one come for? And Barnes was on the bench.
So why did you do that? Why did you just want them to get a shock before the game?
No, I wanted Pesh. I needed Pesh to be a surprise to any potential leak of dressing room.
Right.
So whatever they were preparing for, I was going to make sure that I was going to trump their card on the Monday.
Oh.
It was important to me
just
to play that game, because Pesh was a vastly experienced player. Pesh was like one or two other players. Pesh didn't do a lot of shooting drills, and his warm-ups were very low-key. We needed to mollycoddle this guy.
Yeah.
We had to look after him. But it was important to me that the Friday session, we didn't really need him. I said to him, go and walk your dog on the Thursday and the Friday. Go and put with your family. I'm going to surprise the opposition. The dressing room don't need to know you're playing. You can find out on Saturday and the Monday. Don't worry about it. The same with Barnsley. Barnsley was, again, he come on, 20 minutes to go, runs down that right-hand side with his power and his pace, puts the ball across, and Stevie Pearson makes a great midfield run, puts the ball in the back of the net.
Would that be your favourite moment as a manager, seeing that goal go in?
It was certainly a very emotional moment, but at the same time too, we were still under pressure.
Yeah.
This is if you look at the West Brom side that day, this was a Premier Division team. This is a Premier Division squad. So we knew that even though we'd scored, I don't know when we scored, 15 minutes, 10 minutes to go, there was a lot of defending required, and only because of the discipline of the training ground and the way that this team worked on a day-to-day basis, because of the way that we worked in training, that kept us, we were head clear, defending the last part of the game.
I never seen the last bit of the games, but see for the last 10-15 minutes you've got that lead and you're up against a real good strong team that has got to come at you. Did you go to a back five? Did you go a tactical change? Or, because that's a brave decision, because if you go and you change it for 10-15 minutes
and they
score, all of a sudden your plans blowing up on you. Did you change that, and was it personnel or your defensive shape?
No, I think the most important thing is you change it as soon as they start to become a back to front team. Once they start to throw long balls, Si, and they start to push you back 10 yards, 15 yards, then you need to go from back 4 to back 5. You need to go 3 centre back. But this team weren't really that type of team. They were a ball playing side. They had Gira, they had Jonathan Greening, they had Phillips, they had all these wonderful players that played a certain way. So initially we let them have the ball, and they weren't really a back to front side, or they didn't play that tactic. Tony Mowbray was a ball playing manager.
Yeah, I was at Mowbray. Huh?
Tony was a very good manager and played a certain style. So it was important as the set pieces were crucial. We did have the big centre backs. We had a very solid back four. And at no time did I feel that we needed to go and push in that back five, because they really didn't play that style of play. It was all push and run the edge of the box. Yeah. It's all across the face and try to get a strike, a goal, etc. And again, we'd prepared for that. Again, how mad, like you mentioned, that Stephen Pearson scores the winner, a guy you coached at 15-year-old. Was there a moment between you after the game when you mentioned? Yeah, obviously it was fantastic, and it's a great experience. One of the things that, again, I get a wee bit criticism. Craig Brown said to me, Billy, one regret I've got in my life is that in all the European Championships and all the World Cups and all the international matches, I probably didn't celebrate it well enough. I've not got pictures of things. I didn't spend enough time on the pitch. My advice to you is, if you ever get to that stage, make sure you get onto the pitch with your players and your staff. Make sure you get your family down onto the pitch, and make sure you spend the time that you may never get in your life again. And that's what I done. And what I done stupidly, Sky Sports came to try and talk to me, and my head was away. And I was too busy looking at one of the players or one of the staff. And I ran past Sky and I says, give me 2 minutes. And I blanked the Sky
You ever
reporter.
done an interview?
I done an interview later on.
Yeah, but
that initial moment, for me, and from the outside looking in, it might have looked as if it was bad.
Right.
It wasn't meant to be bad.
Caught up.
I just got caught up in the emotion. And I get caught
Maybe
up in the
lifting
event.
the trophy.
And lifting the trophy, walking up these steps, lifting the trophy, coming back down after that, seeing the sea of Derby fans, going back to the hotel, wonderful time at the hotel, going back to the stadium, that the fans were waiting for us at the stadium. And on the way back, we've got the trophy sitting in the front of the bus, and it's just...
Not even one sip of champagne as well. What a waste.
What, you never had a drink?
Don't drink, I'm a non-drinker.
He's never drank in his life.
And they say they've got a drink problem. They do.
Did they?
That's actually true.
People say that about you?
I've got a drink problem, and I
You
don't
didn't
drink.
He's never had a drink in his
Paul
life.
Caddis kept Birmingham up on the last day, mate. Saved Birmingham from going to League One after it went out and didn't touch a drink as well. That blows my
No,
mind.
he's
Incredible. I
never,
don't touch it, Si.
Wow.
I've never, I don't need it. I'm more than happy to share a
a bore
table.
way and a bore with food.
And
He's not going to change his personality.
We spoke about the season after. You said about knowing that Paul Jewell was coming in. Is there anything that you'd have done differently? Would you have just left in the summer when your stock was high? Was that ever a possibility?
Well, are you going to walk away for your Premier League salary, Si?
No, that's true.
A big decision, isn't it?
Yeah. Is that life-changing salary?
It's
for
life-changing
you?
salary.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, you sit down with your people and you sit down and make a decision and you say to yourself, you know what?
He's doing that.
It's the only reason I'm running about him.
I wanted to go to the Premier League.
Oh,
I might
yeah.
never get this chance. I know that there's an outgoing board. I know that that we needed commitment and support. I get that. I understand that. But I was hoping that we could go in there and try and compete. But under no circumstances did I ever consider walking. Professionally, I felt it was the wrong thing to do. I just had to sit tight and hopefully get the breaks, hopefully get the support. And unfortunately, it was just a matter of time.
Again, they come to you. You remember the day?
I remember the day, yes. I had a Chelsea press conference. Chelsea beats 2-0 at Pride Park. I came out and I asked the press if they would consider where the money has went for the promotion for Derby County. Because we need to spend more money. And the following day, on the Sunday morning, I got a call from the new chairman, Adam Pearson, to come down to the training ground. And I got down to the training ground, and before he opened his mouth, I said to him, you don't need to explain. I'm very much aware. What's interesting, that he sacked me on the Sunday, and on the Monday, I'm supposed to go to the BBC East Midlands Coach of the Year. I've just won the BBC East Midlands Coach of the Year on the Monday, and I'm getting done on the Sunday, and I end up not going to the Coach of the Year.
Oh, did you not go?
Didn't go. No, I took my family and I went away. It was chaos. It was chaos. It was too much going on.
How did the fans take you losing your job?
Well, at that time, you understand that it's all about public perception. When you've not had the support and you're getting beat up, then the fans are obviously wanting to win matches like we do. But we know that the situation is what it is, in the sense that great saying. But no, you just know. You go and you do your stuff. I've told the chairman, no problem, I know what's coming. All the best, see you later. And then, of course, I very politely say no to the BBC East Midlands Coach of the Year. And on Monday, and to be honest, I was just so chaotic. You're talking about fans outside the training ground, fans outside my house at Derby. It was just chaos, it was chaos.
And then Forest, what a club Forest.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to go to a club in the Championship, you'd want it to be Nottingham Forest, wouldn't you, with the stature of that club?
Not if Derby's 12 miles away and you just became the manager of Derby, and they're 12 miles away, and they are the greatest rivals. You could. And by the way, I would think more petty than Rangers and Celtic.
Is it really?
Oh, bad.
Is it the Brian Clough thing that makes them rivals?
Well, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of history between these two clubs with players and coaches and managers. And again, I'll never forget it. I get a call from David Pleat. He says to me that the chairman wants to bring you to the club. And bearing in mind, I'd spoke to Nigel Doughty previously. Before I went to Derby, he was in League One at that time. And I got on great with Nigel in that meeting when he was trying to take me to League One Forest. Now they're in the Premier, now they're in the Championship. Pleaty calls me, tells me that the chairman wants to bring me to the club. I drive down to the Mayfair, to his offices in Mayfair. We have a great chat, and we eventually go and join a great club. But again, I knew, this is me, I'm pulling the pin out of this grenade here.
Yeah.
Because I'm the Derby manager. A lot of Forest fans are not happy.
Right.
A lot of Derby fans are not happy. And here I was, getting presented as the Forest manager. And
was there ever any doubts of taking it because of that?
not at all. You kidding?
You look after
To be
yourself,
fair,
don't you?
I think the only day I remember, that's the time I went down, the first time I went down, and I remember having a chat with Billy, and he says to me, "What do you think, this team?" I says, "You keep them in this division," because they were relegation, weren't they? They were
Absolutely,
They were
bottom three.
Bottom three,
Oh
right?
mate, they were
That's the youngest team in the championship. On you go.
terror. And I says, "You keep that team in this league. I don't care what you done at Derby. That's your best achievement." They were shocking, and I'm not just blowing smoke. And to be fair, I don't. Where did you end up? 10th.
We missed out in the last 2 games from relegation. Youngest team in the championship, bottom 3. We take over it, and I think the big disappointment, there was a promise of an injection of player in the January window, at least 3 or 4. We came to the January window, and unfortunately we never signed anybody. That was a major blow to this young team. Yeah. The whole spirit of the dressing room, etc. We brought in some very good loan players. That certainly helped us. That was a very.
Who did you bring? Can you remember?
I can't remember. Si, was it Aaron Ramsay came in? That may have been later.
Aaron Ramsay.
I think that was later. I can't remember. We brought in Dexter Blackstock, a fantastic lad striker.
Who were the young players that you had at the time that you liked, Billy, when you first took the job?
There was a lot of very good young players. Paul Anderson was a winger that played with Liverpool.
Liverpool, yeah.
We had was a great.
Cohen's a good player.
Cohen, young boy. James Perch, who went to Newcastle, was a good young player. Luke Chambers, a centre back, was another young player. Very young squad, Si, very nice. Yeah. This squad were different for Preston. If I tell this squad how to defend a corner, too many people lose their marker.
Yeah, I can get.
If I tell them to go and do a certain set play, and it's quite complicated set play, then what happens is they don't get. So this was a naive, inexperienced young squad, and we managed just to avoid that relegation.
So do you need to change your approach because of that? Yeah,
you do, because there's now a different management. There's now an education.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're now teaching players
the basics of the game,
basic habits.
Yeah.
And not only basic habits, but also you're trying to put a rough edge on them as well. You're trying to get them. For example, when you go to West Ham, it's the place of football, they think. But there's a great arrogance when you go to West Ham. When you go to Millwall with this young team, you need to tell them, this is Millwall. This crowd are fantastic. They get at you for the first minute. And if you're fragile at all and you don't stand up to the crowd and the environment, then you're going to get your backside felt. So all of a sudden you're educating them not only on the pitch, but you're also educating them to be a wee bit cute, a wee bit fly, how to waste time, for example, how to go down and feign injury, and just the tricks and the games that you've got to do when you're 1-0 up with 2 minutes to go, 5 minutes to go, or whatever. So it became more of an education.
Was there ever a time in that first season you thought we could get relegated?
Oh, definitely.
Was there? Huh?
Oh, absolutely. Oh,
did you take a couple of pastings?
Oh, a couple of pastings, and I just looked at this team, as Daz said. Daz used the word shocking. This team was all over the place, and this team was clearly lacking in confidence. That was the most important thing.
Yeah.
There was no confidence in this team.
And then again, you do the same thing. You keep them up the first year and then finish third the next season.
Yeah, there we go. What we do, we get our teeth into pre-season. I speak to the chairman. I say, Chairman, we need to shake the tree here. We've got to go and really shake this up. I make some real tough decisions on players out and players in. And we go and we get into them on the training ground in the pre-season training. Big Kelvin Wilson. I've never seen a grown man cry as much as he cried in pre-season.
Because it was that tough.
It was a wee bit tough.
Yeah.
It was a wee bit tough, and Kelvin talks about it, but it had to be tough. We're ready to go here and we're ready to compete. And one of the things that I ask the dressing room before the season starts, Simon, what is it you want to be this season? What's your objective? See, if you tell me that you want to get promotion, I'm going to hold that against you for the rest of the season. I'm going to remind you about it.
Yeah. So anytime you're slacking, you told me you wanted to
say, well, I thought you wanted to. I thought promotion was your target. So all these little things about motivating players and sitting down with the Dazzler and saying, Daz, right, tell me, what objective this year?
30 birds.
30
What, do you say jeer, mate? That's a couple of weeks.
A new golf club. New hairdo. 10 sunbeds.
Aye, all right, Billy. Fucking hell. One good season at Forest.
Protected my secretary.
Incredible one.
Oh my
Again,
God.
I think this was the summer where you said Aaron Ramsay came in. How was he as a...
Yeah, came in. Aaron Ramsay came in. We signed some very, very important players. Again, him and Boydie were two players that I knew of the quality of them, Chris Boyd. But two of these guys had been out. Aaron Ramsay was injured. He was coming back from injury. Boydie was out at Middlesbrough. His fitness was down. And again, I was trying to bring in the quality and somebody that could score goals, somebody that can obviously has played at the highest level. And it was difficult for these guys, Si, as you know. It's no easy playing catch up when you miss pre-season or you take an injury. It's no easy. And these guys were coming into this environment. We were obviously chasing playoffs and promotion and all that stuff. And to be fair, both of them came in and both of them are excellent.
Your record in the Championship's incredible, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, we're
What's
very
your
proud.
points tally?
Average 79 points a season over every season that we've played. But more importantly, I think great credit to all the staff and players as well. But you know, it's a big team effort,
Yeah.
and it's all about managing that team. And we're very proud of all the stats that we've had.
Because they do say at that time it was the toughest league in the world, the Championship, didn't they say? To get out, they said it was
Big
the
teams
toughest.
in there, weren't they?
It's still the toughest. Don't be
yeah.
kidded. Yeah, these are. And only when you go down, as you know, Si, you go down there, and these are big stadiums, big training ground, big salary. You know, these are proper football clubs
yeah.
steeped in history. You know, huge support as well, and it's not easy going to Millwall. It's not easy going to Luton. It's not easy going to West Brom. It's difficult going to Southampton, going to Derby, going to Forest, going down to Preston. Very difficult games. And there is no, I don't care whether you go to Rotherham or whether you go to Doncaster, back then when these teams were in and around it. These are difficult matches.
Hard places
Difficult
to go.
matches, absolutely.
Swansea, Brendan Rodgers, Swansea side in the semi-finals. They were a right good team, weren't they?
Very good side. Again, very important that we understood. First leg, it was difficult. I started with Boydie and Robert Earnshaw up top, played 4-4-2. They lost a man after 10-15 minutes, get red carded, their full-back. We spend the rest of the game pinning them to their goal. We can't get the break. We can't get that goal, and we end up drawing the game.
I remember it, huh?
Great result for Swansea, but Swansea know it's no finished. We know it's no finished. I decide to go to the second leg, and I sit down with my staff, and we think long and hard about this game. Brendan's possession play is excellent at this team. They've tremendous counter-attack strength. They're a high goal-scoring team. They've dominated a lot of games, and they're a very well-balanced side. So we know, and I think that we need to compete for the first 60 minutes. What I decide to do is I don't need Robert Earnshaw and Boydie chasing the centre-backs because they're going to chase the ball here. I decide to put in a very experienced Marcus Tudge, very experienced previous few weeks against Derby, the rivals at the City Ground. This lad scored 2 goals. Great in the air, a chaser, a hounder, somebody that goes and does what he does. And a play to bring us a wee bit more comfort in defence in the midfield. One off a striker, I played David McGoldrick, the £1 million signing from Southampton. What a player. Fantastic boy.
Yeah.
Didn't hit it well at Forest, didn't settle in well, but a fantastic boy, outstanding player. He hits the bar after 10 minutes. We go and we do control the game very well. They go and score a goal against a run of play, and then they get one just before half time, I think, if I remember right. I come in at half time, and this game's far from finished. No doubt. I believe we're second half performance. And I say all the time to the team, Si, sometimes some substitutes can be more important than starters. I.e. Solskjaer for Manchester United. I.e. Fairclough at Liverpool. There's a lot of players in the history of football that have been fantastic substitutes. I think that Earnshaw and Boyd in the second half, in the last half hour, could be crucial, especially if we go into extra time. So I make the changes at half time and we go out and we score, we hit the bar, we hit the post, we get a Stonewall penalty kick denied, we're pinning Swansea, and on the 91st minute or something, we've got a corner kick, I throw up my goalkeeper, ball comes in, he gets knocked out, and Darren Pratley scores and makes it 3-1. On the touchline after the game, to be fair to Brendan was very complimentary in the sense of we were very fortunate. You put in a tremendous performance, and you were very unlucky, and it was very kind of him to do that.
Again, the fact that you're dominating games against that Swansea team when you took over, you said you were fucking hopeless basically, and you're now within 18 months you're dominating games against the possession based team.
Exactly. And the interesting thing is that you lose these games, Si, but the ones that you lose to, Blackpool goes up and go into the Premier League, Swansea go up and go into the Premier League. This is not a joke Blackpool team we're talking about. This is very, very, very good players. Charlie Adams, and you've got Ormerod, and you look at that team of Blackpool and you look at that team of Swansea. There's a lot of spend in there, there's a lot of high salary, but more importantly, there's a lot of very, very good players. And they proved that by doing what they've done.
Yeah. Do you watch your games?
I think I've seen the Blackpool one, but as I say, when I went down at Forest at the beginning, it was a difficult shift they had, to be honest.
Was the first season again just keeping it, was it hard to beat, and then was it the second season where you would go and try and dominate games more?
No, this is a different style of play at Forest because we've got legs, we've got pace, we've got youth, we've got a different type. What I had to do is try and bring in some experience. I brought in Paul McKenna, Preston North End captain.
He was a good player.
Great.
Did you bring in Wes Morgan?
Morgan was there. He was a young player at the time. Wes Morgan was there. Brought in Kelvin Wilson for Celtic. Big Kelvin that I had before at Preston and Forest. Big, reliable, knew exactly what you're going to get. I brought in McKenna, I brought in a whole range of people. That allied with the youth and the pace that we had, we could become a much more fluent passing team with Forest, which we did become.
Yeah.
Derby was an ageing squad, a new squad, hard to beat squad. So it was a different thing.
So would you say your Preston team, Derby team and Nottingham Forest team all looked completely different?
All different.
And again, that's a sign of
All
somebody
different.
that's good that can go in and adapt to what he's got in the building.
The Preston team was an outstanding group of people, responsible, reliable, experienced, but all on the training ground. You just no
Warriors.
mistakes.
Yeah.
Warriors. The Derby team was an ageing team, fantastic players. Darren Moore, Michael Johnson, Seth Johnson, Paul Pesky-Salidos, and these guys. But we knew that we had to try and be hard to beat. Surround them, protect them, bring in some people. Bring in the quality captain, Matt Otley, put the big striker up top, bring in the bit of pace with Pearson and Giles Barnes. Then you go to Forest, Si, and you go to Forest and you've got a young team that's just avoided relegation on the learning curve. You add that to a wee bit of experience to that squad, but you've already got the backbone of a fluency and a counter-attack that you maybe didn't have before.
Right. Why did you end up leaving the first time, Forest?
Why did I end up leaving first time? I've got to say that I had a great relationship with Nigel Doughty, the chairman. I think it was just a situation, Si, and I'm trying to be polite here, and you can see I'm trying to choose my words carefully. I think it was just a situation. Nigel phoned me up and he said to me, Billy, I'm making this call with a heavy heart. He says, I've decided I'm going to make a change. And I'm making the call with a heavy heart, but I'm hoping that over the next month or two that I can go with you and have a coffee. And ultimately, Si, when I joined Forest the second time, I gets told that Nigel was convinced to make a decision that he went against his heart and his judgment. Nigel didn't want to make the call. He was convinced by other board members to make the change. And he'd done that and he made the change against his wishes. And that's why his call was exactly what it is. I make this call with a heavy heart. I want to meet you for coffee. I had a great relationship with this guy and very sad that we lost this.
So is that after that semi-final?
This is after the final. After the semi-final. Second leg, yeah.
Where are you taking them?
About a week or two after, Si.
Right.
It wasn't straight away. It was about a week or two after. And as I said, they tell me that he was convinced. Somebody had spent 10 hours on the Sunday convincing him to make the change, and he listened to that certain chief exec.
Right. Wow. And then you go back in 2013.
Very interestingly again, very strange. I'm sitting in the cinema on a Saturday night and I get a call from the Nottingham Forest secretary who I knew the first time, a girl called Jane Cornelli. And she said to me, Billy, the new chairman of the club would like to invite you down to London for a meeting. Right, okay. And at this point, Alec McLeish is a manager. I think Peter Grant was a number 2. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think Grant was with him at that
time. And I think they just lost. I can't remember, Si, if they just lost 4-1 at Watford that day. I can't remember. And in between that, I was also wanting to speak to this club regarding press statements that had been put out against me that I intentionally threw the playoff semi-final against Swansea. Intentionally.
Who, the club said that?
The club was spreading the rumour. People within the club are spreading the rumour that me and the staff who had excess £1 million bonuses, me and the staff that were going to go on 30 grand a week plus salaries, the players that were going to go on double salaries, the players that were going to go on bonuses, some people within the club were holding press briefings that I intentionally picked a team to lose the game and was intentionally wanting to lose the match. So I then went into a conversation with the new chairman. I flew down to Mayfair to meet him. We sat and we chatted. He was telling me he was going to make some changes. He wasn't happy with this. He wasn't happy with this. He's found out this. He's found out that. And it was in that meeting that he told me that Nigel Doughty didn't want to lose you, and he was convinced and spoken to by others that convinced him to remove you. And he told me that he would like to bring me back as a manager.
And was there any thoughts of, because of what had happened to you, there's no way I'm going back to that club, or was it because it was under different ownership?
You can't fuse clubs like that, can you?
I had a great relationship with the fans.
Yeah.
If you look at every club side, I had a great relationship. When I leave clubs, certain things happen. People can do their own research on what happens. They can look into their own stories and their own things. But while I'm at the clubs, I've got to say the relationship with the support and the players and the staff, and it's no easy getting 79 points a season unless the team's together, Si.
Yeah.
So you start to hear all these rumours and all this nonsense, and I've got to say, at no point did I think twice about it. He made it clear to me at Preston North End there was never, we need to get to the playoffs. Preston North End was all about having a good season, put myself in a good league position. Yeah. Derby County was a 3-year plan. Year 1, mid-table. Year 2, top 10. Year 3. Nottingham Forest, the first time, Nigel Doughty made it clear, get us out of this division. And then when I go and speak to Fawaz Al-Assawi, the second time, he tells me that he wants me to come back to the club because he wants to put a 3rd star on the jersey.
What, the European Cup?
Yes. Now the budget gets set not by the manager or the staff. The budgets now get set by the owners.
Yeah.
The custodians of the club decide whether we're going to sign Si for 5 grand a week, 20 grand a week, 100 grand for a signing, whatever it may be. Managers and coaches advise, but managers and coaches don't actually determine whether we're going to spend that money or go to that level. So the agenda, and speaking to him with his ambition, was to put that 3rd star on the jersey.
And was he willing to put the money into getting it?
Oh, he was throwing big money.
Was he, right?
But he was already, before I came in, he'd already spent, I don't know how many millions. This guy was throwing big money to trying to get something working.
See, at that point, did you ever go, hold on a minute, get them in the Premier League's going to be the hardest. To win a European Cup again because of the history of the club where you were? Or was that something you went, you know what, it's a challenge, I'm taking that?
What's a challenge? Listen, forget about the chairman's words of 3rd star. Me and the staff are sensible. We know the Championship's a difficult place. We've already beaten teams that are on 30, 40 million budgets.
Yeah.
So we know that money doesn't buy you success in this division. And Blackpool proved that. They didn't spend big money, but they were bringing in good free transfers or good signings and putting them on big wages. So we knew that money wasn't a guarantee. The staff then were preparing, as you said, as we were preparing Si to go and try and do well in the Championship. And that's exactly what we tried to do. Unfortunately, again, going through the season, unfortunately, we get to a point where I try to advise him on certain bits and pieces. When eventually the sacking comes in, we know that there's things took place. I get sacked with 10 serious injuries. My last game was against Derby at Pride Park. It was a sore one to take. But again, we get the sack. I get sacked in March 14. On November 15, I get a call from the chairman to come down to Forest because he wants to offer me my job back again. I go to Mayfair.
The boomerang.
I go to Mayfair and I sit after 20 minutes and there's him and his entourage. There's a big entourage with this man. Great, nice man, lovely man. Had a great relationship with him. But I sit there and eventually the question is asked of him, Fawaz, he sacked him in he sacked him in March 14. Well, now in November 15, you flew us down to London. And the question that I asked him is, Fawaz, why am I here? And he said, Billy, I've listened to the wrong people. I want you to come back as manager. Fast forward 15, January 15. It doesn't happen for certain reasons, Si, which we'll go into in another day. It doesn't happen. January 15, I gets the call. I'm walking my dog and it's the owner again, pleading with me to come back to the club as manager. And then on June 19, he tries to buy Bolton Wanderers and phones me up and asks me to come back as manager of the club.
And why didn't you?
Because there was an outstanding situation that was still developing between me and him.
Right.
And that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah. And that the mad thing is, so that's 14 years ago, man. No, it's 11 years ago. Man, it's saying that 2024, 2013. That was. Why do you think you've not been in management since?
Well, there's been opportunity. I've spoken to people, but it hasn't gone anywhere. So there's been opportunity. And amongst that side, there was a very serious family health issue. And without going into detail about the events and the time period, it was a very long time. And then, of course, in came the pandemic. And then, as I said, there was opportunity through that period. And we all know that I spoke to Hearts and I spoke to St Mirren. And then, of course, this serious health issues comes in. 3 points becomes non-important. The health of my mother and my father are very important. They're in their 70s. Football becomes secondary, and getting them back on track, which thankfully we've now done.
Good. We've
now got over the problems and they're now a lot healthier, which is great. And then the pandemic kicks in. And then after the pandemic, I can't remember how many years, everything goes great. And then my focus is on building qualifications, going to games, going to training, going to club visits, getting back into... Because every game I go to, speaking to the guys, or every game I go to, I take the camera, I record all the games, I take all the pictures, and I go home and I do an analysis on every game that I watch.
Wow. Set
plays, pictures, video evidence, and I sit and I keep an analysis on every match at every level, here, England or abroad. And I've got to say I've enjoyed the educational side. I've been down to Liverpool and done a year's diploma in Liverpool University in the diploma in football management. That was excellent. That was nothing to do with football. That was all to do with the management of a club.
Right.
And I've learned, since then I've learned first aid, I've learned head injury, I've learned psychology, I've learned every conceivable course that you can think of. I've went and decided that I want to be up to date, on the ball, and know exactly where it is. And now I'm available and I'm ready to go.
Have you ever spoke to Rangers about the Rangers job?
Yes. My agent got a call, I think it was 2016, 17, right. Something like that. My agent gets a call from a Rangers board member. That Rangers board member tells him that the Rangers board want to speak to me about the job. He tells my agent that the following morning, Stuart Robertson, who I think was a finance guy, or I can't remember, Si.
Right.
The following morning, we're apparently getting a call from Stuart Robertson because we're going for an interview to become the Rangers manager. and we've not heard anything since. And the interesting thing, Si, is since 2004, I've been linked with this job every single year or two.
Yeah.
My name comes up, and I've never spoke to the club, and I've never even gave me an interview.
But you were meant to, but it just never happened.
I got the agent get the call.
Oh yeah.
They get the call for the board member. The board member told him Stuart Robertson was going to call him the following day, call me the following day, call him the following day, and the call never came in.
And like you say, now you're ready to get back into management, yeah?
I'm ready to go. I am desperate to get the boots back on again. I've never felt more prepared and more ready on and off the pitch. I've never felt more passionate and more enthusiastic about taking on this next chapter. I can't wait to get tore into the players. I cannot wait to get tore into the team. And I can't wait to get back to my day job side, because it's a game that I love. They'll never turn me against this game. And at this moment in time, I'm excited about the future. And
a lot of chairmen want to know you're going to take him as your assistant.
No, I was just going to say, hold on. The big question in the room is, are we staff members?
So I've got to tell you that for example, I had a great the mascot of Rangers. I think would be great for the Dazzler. I think the mascot of Rangers would be great.
That's what we'd be. I've got your job.
I think he would be fantastic in that outfit.
Yeah, I'll get you measured up for your suit.
I think he'd be great. But as I say, I'm really excited. Really looking forward to it. I'm more than ready, and it's now just a matter of getting that right opportunity. I don't care where it is, Si, I'm very open-minded.
See, with all the stuff that you've watched and analysed, have you now got like a set way that you know exactly how a team would play? Again, would it determine what you're going into, what the squad looks like?
You need to go in and assess your staffing. You need to go and assess your squad. You've got to get in and get a feel. You can only do that once you go on the training ground. You can watch this team 4 or 5 times, but once you go on the training ground, Si, then you can see all the deficiencies, you can see all the problems. And at that point, you then determine what you've got, what you need, and exactly where you're going to go in relation to style of play, league position of the club, culture of the club. Because they'll say to you, every club will say, we're a passing club. We want to pass the ball, and we need to pass the ball because we're a passing club. Well, try telling me that going to Millwall. Try telling me that going to some other club. So you can't always be the passing team that you want to be. You've got to adapt and adjust, and the same as formations. I don't like one formation. I like 2 or 3 formations. And I always plan for 3 formations going into a match. Because
you must be not frustrated, because obviously you've had things going on around you that maybe you weren't as desperate to get back in, but you see these guys who have not done any in the management and they're getting like your Hibs jobs, your Hearts job, your Aberdeen jobs, where you look at what you've done, 1 promotion, 2 playoffs in the Championship, and you think, surely a club would be biting their hand off for a guy with that record. Well, that's up to the clubs. The clubs have got to decide what they want. If this game's all about results, and this game's all about stats, and this game's all about playoffs and promotions and records and economics of clubs, turning this club shop around, and if it's all about that, then you would raise your eyebrow and ask the question, why? And each club needs to decide what type of management that he wants. And what I'm looking for, I'm just looking forward to a good project where I'm hoping that I've got a good mascot's outfit where I can take this guy beside me and stick him into that mascot's outfit. That's what I'm hoping for. You need to have a big nose.
You're going with me.
Billy Davies, you're absolutely sensational. Thanks very much, mate.
Thank
Cheers,
you.
mate.